What's up, Windrunners, Lightweavers, and Voidbringers? Welcome back to the Fantasy Files Podcast, the podcast that wastes hours of your life that you will never get back. We are your co-hosts, Spencer, Gabe, and Sam, joined by Jim from Fantasy for the Ages to dive back into the Cosmere and discuss Words of Radiance, Book 2 in the Stormlight Archive. If you're tuning in for the first time, I'll just mention that we will be spoiling everything that we've read before this book, so that includes like Mistborn, Eras 1 and 2, Tress of the Emerald Sea, Elantris, Warbreaker, and Secret History. But we will not be spoiling future Stormlight books because this is Gabe and I's first time through them. So just be aware of that, and please don't spoil Stormlight in the comments because we do read them and love to talk with you guys down there. Speaking of which, if you'd like to reach out to us directly, all of our links are down in the description, as is Jim's. And if you'd like to watch our episodes live as we record them, just like Shad Zaman is right here. Thanks for watching, Shad.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see them weeks ahead of time, like way before YouTube or anyone else sees them. So to do that, you can join us on our Patreon at the Mistborn tier and above, and you can hang out with us live and chat with us while we discuss these episodes. But with all of that out of the way, we have a very large book to discuss today. We're going to be talking, like I said, about Words of Radiance, and I'm curious to hear everybody's general thoughts on this because as from what I understand, it is the Stormlight community's like favorite book of the four so far. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, this one and the next book are definitely like probably my two favorite in the series. The most recent one was good, but it definitely wasn't anywhere near, to me, book 2 and 3. So these are definitely so far my favorite of the series. This and the
everyone I talk to has a different opinion on that. It's crazy, though. For me, this is the second best. I mean, it was quite a step forward from The Way of Kings for me.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. But then book 3, big step beyond Words of Radiance, though I know people that Words of Radiance is by far their favorite. And then the last one, Rhythm of War, is like neck and neck for me with Oathbringer.
Really?
Yeah, Oathbringer I like just a teeny bit better, but I loved Rhythm of War.
Interesting.
So, you know,
I really liked Rhythm of War, but I think Oathbringer would have to be my number one. I think for me, it's my number one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've heard that Rhythm of War is some people's... Maybe I'm just seeing the vocal minority or something, because I've heard a lot of people talk crap about Rhythm of War. That's the latest one, right?
They just don't get it.
One.
That's what I feel like. They just don't get what they're seeing here.
Okay.
I just think it's one of those things, without spoiling anything, is where, you know, when you have a protagonist who's down a lot, that by Rhythm of War, people were kind of just a little bit like, okay,
tired of it.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
on, you know?
Yeah, come on.
Still amazing. But that for me was probably my only thing, was just like, okay, come on.
But I give props to Brandon Sanderson for staying consistent with the character he's created. I mean, this is a character, and you know, there's a character in this book, Spencer, I know you got really frustrated with.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, oh, this is so, you know, and just jumping a teeny bit ahead. A lot of people get frustrated with Kaladin in this book.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like he's trying to be a depressed sop. He has some issues, and the issues are real issues that real people face where you can't just fix it.
Yeah.
It's part of your personality and you're stuck with it. And Brandon Sanderson is staying consistent. I know he's leaning into experts in mental health as he's writing these characters. So I give him some props.
And that's totally fair. You know I just my whole thing was like, he just kept making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. Like his depression, honestly, I haven't even really noticed it that much, and maybe I just don't know that much about depression. But like Kaladin's just terrible decision after terrible decision after terrible decision just made me so incredibly frustrated with him. And he did he did have like kind of a redemption arc by the end of the book, and he became, I
Yeah,
don't know, I don't
kind
want to
of.
say like cool again, but like he kind of like earned his way back a little bit, but I'm still like, I'm keeping an eye on you in the next book. I'm like, you haven't won your way back for me quite yet. Because like especially how he just wouldn't let things go, like in that tournament, in the duel. It's like, how on earth did you think that was the right time to voice your animosity towards Amaram?
That
How,
was the hardest part
what
of
could
my
have
reread.
possibly made
Hardest
you
part.
think, oh my
Yeah,
god.
just about every reader reads that and goes, "You idiot!" At
Yes.
that
No,
point.
don't do it.
Ah, dude,
Doesn't it
everything
remind
was
Yet,
you
going
of
so
both
well.
though?
understanding where he's come from, his background, his perspective, which is not the reader's perspective. He does not see the world as broadly as we are able to. It
Sure.
makes sense for
For him.
Kaladin. He's not making what he thinks is, I mean, none of his decisions are bad decisions from his
From
perspective.
his perspective. But it's like Kvothe and like the name of the wind. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Where you're like, why are you doing this? Just
Right.
be
yeah.
normal.
Just be normal. It's like the meme of like the mom shouting at her kid, "Why can't you just be normal?"
It's me with my child every day when he comes
Yeah.
home from school. Why can't you just do your work?
And again, Kaladin has had so many people, we know it by this book already, he's had so many people screw him over,
Yeah.
especially Light Eyes,
Yeah.
and that's a major issue for him to be able to move past. He's trying in this book, but still to let go of that well-earned prejudice that he has against the Light Eyes. It's not just something he can let go of. And then he's got Moash, who's his real friend. He has very few real friends, and he's so torn. I know we'll talk more about that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I know. It's yeah, Kaladin gets pulled in a lot of different ways or in a lot of different directions in this book, and I think they're all interesting, but he was just infuriating for 99% of the book.
I think you really look at it in a different way though just now and say, okay, if it what happened to me with Amaram, that was me, and that had happened, I would be just as, can we swear in this one, Spencer?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would be just as pissed off as Kaladin is and be holding a grudge in the way that he is. And so
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
the reader, we're like, come on, buck up. But when I try to
Mhm.
put myself in his mindset, I would be just as salty as Kaladin
Yeah.
is.
And
Absolutely.
Kaladin took a chance, shared his true experience with Amaram to Dalinar, and Dalinar did not respond the way Kaladin needed him to. Now, Dalinar, we find out later, Dalinar listened, and he's really, he's got things in action, but Kaladin's like, I can't trust Dalinar. See,
Mhm.
he's a light eye. He doesn't take my word, so here's my shot.
Right.
Here, I can get a boon. I get it.
Yeah.
I have one chance.
Yeah.
A couple things. I loved the scene when Dalinar was like, "See, I pay attention. I'm listening.
Yes.
I hear you." And like he calls out Amaram and like puts his sword to his throat, and he's like, and I think the one of the best twists in this book, everyone's going to disagree with me as far as like best twists, but one of the best twists to me was that he this whole time had been telling Kaladin, like, you don't know what you're talking about, like, get back in line, soldier, all this stuff. And he secretly had a guy following Amaram the whole time, hanging out with him to see if Kaladin was telling the truth. And it's like, that is how Dalinar trusts people. He's like, trust, or
Trust
maybe
but verify.
not trust, but verify. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I'm like, that was so good when he's like, I heard you the first time. I made steps towards it. Like maybe you're not seeing those steps, but I have made steps towards it. I'm just like, way to go, dude.
I thought that was the best twist. I agree, Spencer. I thought it was, there was almost no lead up to it. Like there was, oh, that's why you were sick for a week. I was like, oh my God,
Yep.
I didn't
That was
even
great. Yes.
So
sit down
good.
and reread. I had forgotten, and I was like, see, like that. I loved that, Spencer. I loved it.
Yeah. Oh,
I
it's
wasn't even
fantastic.
mad that we weren't really giving clues, you know, because it was such a, it almost felt like we were meant to be in the perspective of Kaladin, where we had
Yeah.
no idea. We were
Oh,
not
totally.
supposed to know. We were supposed to be just as shocked as he was.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
for
That
sure.
was amazing.
My other thing with that, when Kaladin asks for the boon, I love the moment where I forget who says it to him. It's either Dalinar or Adolin, maybe. But somebody says to him, Kaladin's like, the king asked me if I wanted a boon, so I told him. And they were like, he asked Adolin! Like, it wasn't for you. And Kaladin's like, meh. That, oh,
But
I
I
Well,
love,
they all
appreciate,
say
I
no. Like
appreciate,
Elkohar is the one who actually screwed it up by reacting the way that he did.
and that's what I appreciate, that late in the story, Elokar admits it to Kaladin.
yeah. Yeah,
Which
yeah,
turns
yeah.
out to be huge that he admits it to Kaladin. Not that
Yeah,
Elokar realizes at that moment how he basically just saved his own life.
yeah,
But yeah, he could have handled it differently. He didn't
yeah,
in the moment, but it
sure.
it wasn't all on Kaladin. Elokar admits
Yeah,
it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
yeah. And I love the scene later in the book when Elhokar is like, he's like drunk or whatever, and he's like, Kaladin, like, how do I be a hero? Like,
It's a great
how do
scene.
you do it? Like, oh man, it was
And
such a
he
good
tells him
scene.
straight to his face, like, "No, you are a terrible king." Like,
He's like,
and
you're a
he's like, "I
terrible
Uh-huh.
king, and
am,
you should
I
step down.
And
know."
he's pretty
Yeah,
much, yeah, I know.
yeah,
It's one of
Uh,
those kind of like tropes in a way where the person who was given, you know, the throne because their parent died and they're very clearly not the right person for it. And
mhm.
I hated him in the beginning. And then at the end, I'm very partial to him. I'm very like, oh, he's seeing shadows. He if a friend chose him, you know, he's got to have some goodness in there. He may
Yeah.
not be meant to lead, but that doesn't mean he's not a good, could have been a good person. And his story made me really sad.
Again, people are divided there. My son just thinks Elokar sucks. I
Really?
was like, I see it. There's
How old is your
redemption in
son?
here. What's that?
yeah,
How old is your son? Because I feel like the older you get, the more with your life experience, you're like, I get it. Like
Yeah, my
I
son's
understand.
25. He's still all judgy, I guess. I don't know.
Not enough life experiences and letdowns to understand.
I've noticed Gabe trying to poke in a few times, and I keep steamrolling him. I'm sorry, man. What
Oh,
are your
I
thoughts on
don't even remember what
Elhokar?
I was going to say now, dude.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's all good. It's
My
all
bad.
good.
Well, what's your
Uh,
favorite moment, Gabe?
Yeah, I got one favorite moment that probably made me smile. This is going to be kind of very simple to you guys, I'm sure, but it's when Shalyn,
mhm.
and
Shalon. Oh, I hear it.
Kaladin are in. They make their way into this little crevice in a wall, and
Oh yeah.
and Kaladin freaks out, and Shalyn's like, "Wait, take this," and then she like brings out her shard blade and gives it to him, and I was like, "Dude, awesome."
Yeah. That was such a great
Yeah,
And
moment.
it's
then
just
she
kind
was
of
a leaf
it's kind of like
blade.
simple, but like it was one of those where I was just like, yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Nobody was
Yeah.
There are
expecting that.
things like that about Shalon that they come out of nowhere in this
Yeah,
book, but
yeah,
on
Yeah.
a reread, you realize
I
all the
know.
clues were
Yeah,
there.
I most definitely need to reread this book. It'll probably be the first thing I do after
Yeah.
this.
I
Yeah.
have like a stupid moment that I don't know why every time I've reread this book, it's always the moment I can't wait for. And it is almost no significance on the story whatsoever. But towards the end, when Kaladin goes and sees Kadash, the Ardent, the former soldier Ardent,
Yeah.
and there was always something that stuck to me about when they're washing the fighting pit sand. And he's like, go on, ask me. Why do we have it set up like this? And they go into this whole conversation. He's like, well, men sweat in it all year round, and we have to close it up, and we stir it up, and, you know, the crap floats to the top, and it flows away. And I thought there was a very slight, subtle nuance to what Sanderson was trying to tell us in that moment of, you
Huh.
know, sometimes you just kind of gotta clean it off, let the crap
Yeah.
and float away.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about that moment in the book, but every time I reread it, it is one of my most favorite moments
That's awesome.
of the book, and I don't know why.
When was this? What sand were they talking about?
Like at the
Fighting
very
pit.
towards the end, when some of them are out on the plane, right? They're on their way to try to find the center of the plane, and he goes to see Kadash, and Kaladin had come back because he was hurt, and he doesn't have Stormlight to heal himself because Syl isn't with him anymore.
Right.
And Kadash kind of unintentionally gives Kaladin the kick in the ass he needs to realize, oh, Elkohar is Dalinar's Tien, and it's just something with the sand conversation. I don't know what it is. It sticks with me every single time I read it.
I categorize that in random and deep.
Yeah, random and deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
one of my favorite.
That's great. We were talking about Shallan for a minute there, and I just continue to love this character so much. I mentioned in the previous episode that she was my favorite character of the first book, and sure enough, she continues to be my favorite character in this book.
She's awesome. She's funky.
Oh man, she's so great because not only is she like, if she was just kind of like this wisecracking, like clever girl kind of character, I don't think I would like her as much. But there's so many different sides to her, and so many.
Oh yeah, you could say so.
And like so many like little secrets and stuff, like finding out about her like Shardblade and all this stuff, and then Pattern gets introduced, and now she's got this weird little companion type person. And she just continued to by far be the most interesting character for me. And I think this book also made me like Dalinar a lot more, because I think in the first book I was kind of bored by him. But I think this book he kind of like rose to probably like second favorite under Shallan. And yeah, I loved every scene that she was in, especially her and Adolin. This is like, I have a feeling this is going to become my favorite fantasy couple of all time. Like, I love these two so much. It felt so real. And, people say all the time, oh, Sanderson can't write romance. He doesn't know what he's doing with romance. And I'm like, I beg to differ, because I loved all of this Shallan and Adolin stuff, all of the weird, or not weird, but all the like little flirty stuff, like when they first meet each other, and then how they like really care for each other by the end of this book. It was all just so good. I loved all of their like random little dates, like them going to the zoo and her like, or the menagerie or whatever, and her like drawing the animals, and he's like, I don't know, she's happy, like she's just going around drawing the animals. And or like when she's out on the plains and she's like, I need you to cut this rock for me so I can see what's inside it. Just all these cool little moments. Or when she asks him on their like first like official date, she's like, so how do you poop in your armor?
That's a great scene.
Yeah.
He's like, nobody's ever asked me that before. And it kind of does the like, I'm not like other girls, without being so like in your face about it. Like, Shallan is just different than these other girls that he's dated. Like, she just is. And so she stands out more, and he tends to like her more.
Oh man, he's falling hard.
Yes. I love it so much. And I love all the little moments where she's like, she's falling for him too, where she's like, she'll see him across the plains or across the room or something. She's like, I love that messy hair so much. Like,
Yep.
It's just great. I love
for him to Kaladin. She's like, what do you mean? He's only ever been nice to you. Like, what is your problem? And Kaladin is finally forced to look in the mirror and say, oh, maybe I have just been an asshole.
Dude, I love this moment where they're on the plains together, and he's like, well, Adolin is an asshole too. Like, he's just this privileged, like, light eyes. And she's like, Adolin is like the nicest person ever, and I'm gonna prove it to you right now. And she points over to him, and Adolin is standing with the dark-eyed like servants, and he's like laughing with them, and he like takes his helmet off, and he's like, "Here, try it on,"
Let
and
me
like
try
they
it
try
on,
his
yep.
helmet on, and I'm like, "Let's go!" Like, I love that moment so much.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally told her that if he poops in his shard plate, it's uncomfortable because he has to have others wipe it off for him.
Yes.
Because you can't do it yourself. And I'm like, he's in love. He is freaking in love
Yep.
with this girl.
Oh.
He just told her that.
It's so great. I absolutely love it. The only thing I'm a little worried about is I don't know if it's just like a one-off thing, but it kind of seems like there's going to be a love triangle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
hearing
what I
how
was
much
gonna
you're
say.
hooked on them, yeah, you're gonna be crushed next book. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
That would suck.
Yeah, when they were down in the chasms together, I really, really got the feeling I was like, there's got to be something that's gonna happen with these two.
I was like, there's a little bit of chemistry, there's a little bit of something, and then they're like sitting in the cubby together, and they're like all like wrapped around each other. I'm like, and it, you know, you're in like a small confined space, like I get it, but it just seemed like this very like cuddly moment.
Well,
And
Kaladin
then
and Shallan
Not
have a
cuddly
lot
if
more in
death
common
is only an inch
than
away.
Shallan and Adolin. You know, so they have things they can bond over. It's true.
yeah, and that was another scene that I really liked, where Kaladin was finally able to tell somebody the entirety of what happened to him, and Shallan was able to do the same. And it's like finally they were able to like get both of their stories out to
Right.
someone,
Yeah.
which was really nice. But
Huge.
I did notice that later when everybody's like marching out into the plains, Kaladin is looking at Shallan and Adolin, and he's like, yeah, he's sitting up there with this pretty girl, like getting all butthurt about it. And then she, like, even mentions something about it in her POV where she's like, Adolin's like this, but Kaladin's like this. And there, I'm like, oh man, is this gonna become a love triangle? Please no.
You know, some
Like,
girls like the dark brooding type.
I know.
I mean, this
She,
book is the one that makes me really love Adolin, because when you find out that he,
oh yeah,
on his own terms, stayed in
yes.
prison for the same amount of time as Kaladin,
Yeah.
because he didn't believe it was fair. And Kaladin's
Right.
like,
Yep.
oh, that's the ruckus I heard, you know, back
Yep.
a few days
Yep.
ago.
That
I
was
like,
beautiful.
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
It was so good.
What a good
Now,
soul.
it's not like he had the same privations that, you know,
Yeah,
but
sure.
still, he
Still,
forced
He put
Elokar's hand.
Yep.
You know,
yeah.
I got to
this
do
is
something about this.
modern
'cause-
day Dalinar.
Yeah,
Modern day Dalinar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
it was great.
Well,
And I think
I-
that was important between Kaladin and Adolin. For
yes.
Kaladin to come out and discover that's
Yeah.
what Adolin did. It's like,
Yep.
maybe I gotta adjust how I've been
Yeah.
judging people.
And then he
Yeah.
turns his shard plate down, and I'm like, no.
No. Oh, that bummed me out so much.
It's like, dude,
gives it
remember
to
what happened the last
Moash?
time you turned something like this down? Remember? You know,
Mhm. Oh man, yeah, that was like, and then I was like, why Moash? Like, what? He knows that Moash has this plot against the king. Why are you giving it to Moash?
it's a good question. Why does he give it to Moash?
I think
What
because
is he hoping?
of him being put away in the prison in general, even though, you know, he got to keep his position and whatnot, he's like, see, even if I tell the truth, it doesn't do me good. So what's the point? Why am I trying to help the good guys? Or the people who think they're the good guys?
Yeah.
See,
But
I
at
see him
that-
giving it to Moash for two reasons. One, that's, again, as I said earlier, it's his one true friend. So he knows how much Moash would value this. He gives it to Moash because Kaladin, don't want it. Don't want anything to do with it. But Moash would love it. But the second, I think he's hoping it will do good things for Moash. He's worried a little about Moash. It doesn't, but he's hoping. You know, Kaladin is still a bit naive, and we see that in various ways, and this is one of those naive moments. I'll give him this, and it'll turn him into an upright person. Yeah.
I think Moash is a mirror for Kaladin in a lot of ways. He sees
Oh, he's
a
the
lot
anti-Kaladin. He really is.
but he sees him as a mirror of it's almost this reverse, image. And while he sees a lot of similarities, Moash tends to take it to a much darker side somehow than Kaladin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Another general thought that I had was that reading this book especially reminded me a lot of Mistborn. There's so many similarities that Brandon Sanderson has kind of baked into his world that is similar between the two things. Like similar to Mistborn, there's like this roaming storm that is also obviously tied to the magic somehow. And like in Mistborn, we get like the ash falling from the skies, and everything's very red, and there's all these kind of storms in that way. And then like big like ash mounds and whatnot. And then the Parshendi reminded me of the Lord Rulers people, like the people that the Lord Ruler was from, like, if I'm remembering correctly, a certain tribe or a certain
he
type
was like
of people.
he was like with Sazed, right? Like was he
Yeah.
the same kind of?
Yeah, weren't they the same
Yeah,
race?
I think they were the
if
same
I'm-
race.
But
Yeah,
Okay.
way back.
way
Yeah,
back.
way back. Yeah, and so those I forget what exactly that like race of people is called, but those were kind of like these overlooked people, this overlooked tribe, and now with Parshendi, it seems like they are also greater than what they appear to be. I'm not exactly sure how, but
Terraceman.
Terraceman, thank you.
That was it. Yep.
And yeah, and so I'm interested to see how the Parshendi just kind of play out, like what their big role in all of this is, because it feels
Sam and I
really
are biting
similar.
our tongues hard
It's
here
so
right now.
Sure.
If you've been watching me, I'm going like this.
Yep.
Neutral.
Totally.
Yeah.
No
You
problem.
might be onto something. We'll just say you might.
Okay.
You might.
Cool. I figured they have to. There's something that's happened in the past that they're like a bigger part of that we just don't know yet, because it seems too similar to what happens in Mistborn. But also the Stormlight reminds me of the metals, just in that it needs to be like ingested, and once it's ingested, then you like burn part of it off. And so I just thought it was kind of interesting how similar they are, and I'd be interested to know at what point Stormlight Archive was written in relationship to Mistborn, like if all of Mistborn was written and then Stormlight, or if he was writing them kind of at the same time, or what.
Yeah, they're interwoven. My recollection is that the first trilogy of Mistborn was written before he started Stormlight, but Stormlight and the second era is totally hand in hand.
Right. Okay. Oh, you mean timeline-wise?
No, when he was writing it.
Oh, when he was writing
just his actual writing process.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I can see a lot of evolutions from Mistborn to this. And then the other general thought I had is Hoyd and Yasna at the end. I knew she wasn't dead because she's on the cover of Oathbringer,
which is not fair.
Which is not fair.
Like
yeah,
that, but
yeah, I had a feeling. She wasn't going to be dead. But there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens with Hoyd and Yasna, and let's see, one of them being, I have a note at the very bottom of our notes here. First of all, Hoyd says, I once spent the better part of a year inside of a large stomach being digested.
Yep.
Like, okay. And she pulls out her shard blade that apparently she has, and she says, or Hoyd says, I'd be surprised if that knife of yours poses me any sort of threat at all. And I'm like, okay, so what makes Hoyd... Like, I feel like I know a lot about Hoyd at this point, but I'm also kind of like, what makes him because he never seems worried about any of this stuff that's happening, like any of like this big like physically damaging stuff. He's like, yeah, I'll survive it. And so I'm like, why wouldn't a shard blade affect him? Because like
But he
he
is kind of
also
just like, I mean, he's like super duper powerful. He knows a ton of magics from
Yeah.
all
He's
different,
super.
like
I
all
mean,
different areas and different, whatever you call them, shards, whatever it is. He's
Yeah.
got like, just from the minimal amount of books we've read prior to this,
yeah.
like he's got a couple really cool magics.
well, what happens to somebody when they are hit by a shard blade? Just answer that.
It's
What
like
happens?
necrosis, right? It just kills tissue or severs something.
Well, it severs something. What is it that's being severed?
Well,
Your
it depends
soul.
on
The
where
soul.
you're hit.
Okay, so you're being cut off from the life force, the soul.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
if your arm is sliced through, that arm's dead. Okay. Can you heal from that? We know now
Kaladin.
there is a way.
Yeah.
How? How do you
Was
heal
it-
from that?
Was it just when he ingested Stormlight?
Stormlight, is that the answer?
Stormlight that did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stormlight is what? In the greater Cosmere sense,
Hmm.
what is Stormlight?
Magic. I mean,
The
it's
only-
a magic system.
The only term that I
Energy?
know is investiture, but I don't
Yes.
know. if that-
Investiture,
is it-
okay.
Yeah.
Energy.
But I
investiture,
don't know
right?
what
Investiture.
investiture is.
That's
though.
exactly what's magic. But
Yeah, it's energy. Yeah.
so Hoyd, the dude's got some magic.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
We've seen him around. He's uber investitured.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's why I'm sure he's not worried about something like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't know
Okay.
100%. Like you
Sure.
said, what happens if you got stuck right through the head?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe
Right.
that might be a
Yeah.
problem.
But he's convinced that he could probably be okay if anything else happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I love Hoyd. I think he's the coolest like mystery of the Cosmere. He's just like all over the place getting like the Mistborn powers and all that. And was he the messenger when Shallan was young? Because it said that he
Was
put
he? Yes. Yes, he was.
put like the powder into the drink. I'm like, that's got to be the metals, right? I would think. Because that yeah, I could see him.
Which is why later she's so happy to see him. Because
That's why.
he was the messenger who said
Oh.
things that made a huge difference for her back then as a child. Yeah.
Okay. That all fits together then. Okay, because that was one of my questions. I was like, why was she so excited to see him?
I
Yeah,
think
they're
Um,
like,
that's
you
his
know
point
which?
of view.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, Jim? I think you get his point of view on the situation later and why
Do
he
you?
acted the way he
Yes.
did, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be cool. So he catches Yasna up on everything that's happened, and she clearly knows him and doesn't like him. And earlier in the book, he had mentioned someone was like, "You should find a girl your own age," and he's like, "Well, the only other one around here is another. What does he say? The only other one around here that is my age, like, doesn't like me too much or whatever." And I'm like, is that Yasna? Is she an ancient, like, world hopper like he is? But that also wouldn't make sense because she's Dalinar's or Gavilar's
right.
daughter, right?
You
So
said
she wouldn't.
Yasna doesn't like Hoyd? Is that what that was
Yeah.
your impression there?
Yeah,
Because I
didn't
never
think
got that impression there.
I mean, she held a knife to his throat.
Well, that doesn't mean she doesn't like him. In some cultures,
True,
that's
that's-
romantic.
That's
True.
foreplay. I mean,
Yeah.
Right?
I don't.
I think you got to go back and look at the actual dialogue they have there before,
Okay.
because I think you've misjudged that.
Well, and think of Yasna.
Hmm.
She's not the type who is gonna have a conversation really with someone stupid. She's just gonna blow you off. Like, you're not worth her time. So if
Hmm.
she's making you, even if she's making fun of you or, trying to slit your throat, she's paying attention to you, which for
Hmm.
her
It's
says a
huge.
lot.
Yeah. She's
Okay.
completely dismissive of so many.
So many. She's like,
Okay.
you are ants under my feet. I don't have time for this. It means nothing to me.
Right?
So she at least like respects him to the point where she's like having like a full on like intellectual conversation
Yes.
with him.
He is worthy of that in her eyes.
But my question is, so he pulls her out of Shadesmar. Like what? Like why did she spend so much time in Shadesmar? Like why not like do we know why she was there, like what and what she was searching for in this book?
I don't think in this
I think it's the
book.
next
I
book
think
that
it's the next
that's
book.
explained. But did
Okay.
he pull her out?
I don't
I
know
didn't
about
remember it that way. He just sensed where she was coming. I think she
Oh,
got
she
herself out.
Oh, okay. I thought he was doing his like flute thing or whatever and or some
No,
instrument
okay.
and no.
he has his ways of knowing things is all. So he
Right.
knew where she'd be coming out.
Yeah, that's what he's
Okay.
saying. Is like he knows things. And then look at Yasna.
Well,
She is someone who knows things. You know what I mean? It's a very
well, cuz wasn't she like wasn't she like I don't have time for this. Like I got to go back in and get everything ready for the Knights Radiant and he's like, "No, no, all of that's already been done."
Exactly.
And so
Yeah.
wasn't she I don't know why she would have popped out if she was like, "No, I need to go back and get all this stuff ready."
Yeah, she comes back out and she's frustrated at all the time she just lost because there was a whole bunch of things that she was going to be starting to get the ball rolling on, and she's assuming none of that's happened because
Yeah.
she's been gone. But it all happened without her while she was
yeah.
away, and that's what Hoyd Wit is catching her up on. Saying, no, no, no,
Okay.
relax. These things all took place. It's all good. And part of her is like, well, crap. I put all these plans together to have this happen, and then I wasn't even needed.
Right.
She had no
So,
idea how well she had picked her ward
right.
in a decade of not
So
having
now,
any. She had no idea that just one conversation that was 2 minutes long with Shallan could
Yeah.
turn into,
right.
oh, this girl is just as motivated and dedicated as I am. Even if I
Yes.
die, she is going to keep that ball rolling. And I think that is a big shock for her to be like,
Yes.
Yeah.
oh, like I had an impact on someone who was able to do it, but also she's got a big head. So she's like, how
Right.
could this have continued without me?
So it's really important that you remember in this conversation with Wit that he assures her all these things are in place already. They've all happened without you. There's no need to rush back.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember
Okay.
that.
No need to rush back. Okay. Interesting.
I won't say anymore.
Sure. He does say so he talks about the desolation. He's like, the desolation has come, and with it the end of this land. And I don't know. Maybe we've heard the word desolation before.
In
Yes.
the very
I don't-
opening of the first book is when
Okay.
they talk. Well, they talk about it. They
They've
sprinkle
mentioned it.
It's kind of a theme. I feel like that's been in a lot of
I was
books.
gonna say it sounds like a bigger theme, bigger picture word.
It reminded me of the. Did anyone either watch or read the Three Body Problem?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Where so basically in this world, no matter what they do, there is going to be some cataclysm that essentially resets their whole world. No matter what they do, there's some huge natural disaster that is going to reset your world back to cavemen. And that's what it reminded me of. The desolation is, hey, you guys may be in a world like we are with internet and technology and blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. But if there is a crazy storm that wipes out a lot of stuff on this earth, we are basically going to be starting over.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's what the desolation is. The people in the story are not getting enough time to build their world before a new desolation comes and makes them restart all over again.
Yeah.
Gee,
And
I
so
wonder
they
if
have-
Brandon Sanderson was a fan of the Wheel of Time.
They have talked about desolations in these first two books in that it's ancient history, that there used to be desolations,
Right.
and then there hasn't been one in a
So
long time now.
Yeah, because those guys, the heralds, left their swords behind, hoping that would end the cycle of the
Well, they left
desolations.
town behind.
Yeah.
Town, yeah.
Because they explained that. I know this has been explained already, so I'm going to explain it here anyway. But when these heralds would be here, eventually they'd all go back to that other place, and the Oath Pact kept it so that as long as they were there, the Voidbringers, the bad people, couldn't come back. There couldn't be another desolation. But someone would always eventually break because they're being tortured. It's horrible, and they'd hold out as long as they could, but one of them would always break. Except there was one that had never broken. And that's the one that they allowed to be back there by himself when they all left their swords and walked away. So he's been there all that time, and that's why he never broke. So it's been way longer than it had ever been before between desolations.
So does Talon coming back mean that he eventually broke?
Could be.
Okay.
It would be the logical conclusion that he's not there anymore. He must have finally broke.
Yeah, they
And this is another realm, or
they unintentionally found a way to make more time between the desolations. Instead of doing what they had normally done, they were like, all right, well, let's kind of screw Talon because he's never broken. We'll go back. He'll stay. He'll deal with this. And so
where did when they left Talon behind in, is it basically like hell? Is it just like a realm or something?
It's something. I don't think that's been explained well enough in the books yet.
Okay,
so I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you. You will learn more.
Have we been told where the other heralds went when they left him behind? Do we know what they went to go do?
Did we find that out in the most recent book? I don't think so.
We know where one of them went.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
At the end of this book, we know where one of them went.
Yeah, and I don't think we have gotten really any.
You're going to get pieces of that, but basically they went and did things.
And do we know how long ago this was in terms of like years? No.
Coming back to me now, Jim. Now I'm remembering. We can't say. We just can't say.
Yeah, we can't.
It's coming back to me, and we can't say because I don't want to ruin it for you. It's just so great when you get those interludes in the coming books that it's not worth even commenting on.
Okay. That's cool. I do know, I don't know if this is what you guys are referring to exactly, but he says the storm will bring a transformation, which is what we just talked about. And then they were talking about, Yasna says something about God. And he goes, Televast was a fine enough fellow, but he wasn't God. And I'm like, okay, so I wonder if that's one of the heralds and he was acting as like what people call like the Almighty or whatever, just because he was like this like big powerful being. And again, you don't need to comment on that, but I just thought that was funny. I was like, it's like, okay, all right. I mean, you could easily just replace that with Sazed from Mistborn.
Yeah.
Like Sazed was a fine enough fellow, but he wasn't like God. Although Sazed was kind of like eventually seen as pretty much God, but yeah.
Harmony.
Yeah, Harmony.
Oh, you have much to learn in the next two books.
I'm excited. I'm like genuine. So here's my thing. We've been going through general thoughts for a while now, but my whole thing is I think this book was significantly better than the first. The first one took me a long time to get into. I liked all of it. Like I enjoyed it right from the beginning, but it wasn't until like halfway through or so in the first book where I was like, okay, I'm on board for everything that's happening. Mm-hmm. This book, it may have just been a running start from the last book, but this book, from the very beginning, I was incredibly on board for everything. It had its lulls, it had its moments where I was just like, all right, I'm ready for this to kind of move on a bit, especially those interludes I really didn't like. I'm sure I would love them on reread, but on this read, I was just like, I don't understand any of this, and I just want to move on.
I understand that.
Yeah.
The interludes, Spencer, even in my rereads, I'm like, I don't care.
Oh, no.
Okay.
It's totally transformed for me now. On the reread, the interludes were where it was at, man. I loved the interludes, but I hated them the first time.
Yeah. The first time, I didn't include it on my Google Doc here, but in my phone notes I have where it's talking about you know, Rain or Risen or whatever her name was, and like the other characters. There was like 3 in a row, and I'm like taking notes on all of them, and then finally when it gets back to the normal story, my note is, "Oh, thank God we're back to normal chapters." That's literally the note I had.
You know, I
I
gotta
was just
say,
like,
The Way of Kings, the way you feel about it compared to Words of Radiance makes a ton of sense, because The Way
yeah,
of Kings is really just the foundation of the series. It's just establishing, it's building the world, it's giving you what we're going to build everything else on. It
yeah,
really doesn't take off till Words of Radiance.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
that's a big thing in fantasy series, especially when they become so popular, is that a lot of people find the first book, especially if they find it later into the series when there's a couple books out already, they're always like, oh, well, the first one was so boring. And it's like, well, you know, I think you should be prepared in fantasy novels
Yeah,
for
for
world
sure.
building to
Right.
have
Yeah,
kind of the first book be very
Yep.
much just informative in a
You
lot of
can't appreciate Words of Radiance without The Way of Kings. You need
yeah,
all of that context.
yes.
But it's like, I found it so slow for a lot of The
hmm
Way of Kings. It was brutal the first time I read it.
Yeah.
Not
yeah,
the second time, but the first time it was brutal.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was tough in some parts for sure. Gabe, what did you think about the second book compared to the first book? Do you have like a favorite, or did you appreciate one for a different reason or whatever?
I don't. So I think the first book I was probably able to. This book was big. It was like a lot for me right
hmm
now. It was a lot for me to focus on, a lot for me to remember, and so like I struggle with, I guess, classifying it as like a, something I have read, because I feel like if I were to read it again, I could get a lot more out of it. And the first book was good, and there were parts of this book that were incredible. I loved a lot of the world building. Like basically halfway through to the end is where I probably like remember the most of and got the most out of.
hmm
And so I don't know. I feel like I need to give it another shot, try it again. But just like Jim said, I think the establishing the world is super important, and I really did like the first book.
hmm
But again, we're just building off of that. This next book is the jump up, and then I'm assuming number 3 is going to be further, and hopefully that keeps going up and keeps getting more crazy
Yeah.
by whatever they're at right now, number 4 or 5.
Do you think you'll want to reread this book before the third one, or are you gonna go straight into
No,
the
no,
third?
I need to reread this book before the third for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
For sure.
No, I don't feel like I've given. Yeah, I haven't absorbed this book as I should have. So it needs to be read again.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
I feel like with
Okay.
this book, though, a lot of it's a book, once you finish it, you could easily pick it back up and start over again, because you're just gonna, so much more will make sense to you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's
Yep.
a lot to take in, so it makes sense
Yeah.
that, it's like, wow, you're throwing a lot of crap at me right now. I don't know how much is gonna stick.
Yeah, and
Right.
it was just I was at a weird spot to listen to, I'm not working right now, so like all my listening is trying to balance my, wife and parents who I live with and the dogs, and like trying to listen every day, which is really hard. At work I can listen 10 hours a day, hyper focused, right? Without any issues. I'm absorbing all of it, so it's just kind of a weird time to, really try and
Right.
soak up a big book.
Yeah. For sure.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say this book. When I was getting the notes together this morning, I was like copying and pasting over some notes from like I send them from my phone to my email, and then I copy and paste them over to Google Docs. And I was like doing some of these notes like at the beginning, and I was like, "Oh, that happened in this book? I thought that was in the last book." Like it's such a long book. I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
damn near a 50-hour audio. I think
It's
isn't it like
it's like
47
50
hours?
or even more, 52 or something is
It's
what I thought
huge.
I
Yeah.
saw.
Yeah.
But even
It's
on my
crazy.
speed, it was still, it's like, holy crap, dude,
Yeah.
it's a week long work, it's like a work week,
Yeah.
dude, listening
Yep.
to this book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Totally. Yeah,
this was a reread because I have not been able to listen to a single thing at work lately with how
Yeah.
busy it is. So I was very
Yeah.
grateful.
Yeah.
This was a reread, but when I tell you that I spent almost every spare moment listening to it, and
Yep.
it still took a week, it's
same.
and I
Yeah.
listened to
Yeah.
2.4, so I'm
Yeah, it's
not
crazy.
listening
Wow.
to regular speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. This morning I was like, I still had a couple of hours to finish, and I was on 2 times, which for me is pretty high. But I just laid in bed and closed my eyes and just freaking listened for like
Yep.
4 hours, dude.
Yeah, I know. I've been reading like crazy. I've been reading or listening like at work and stuff. And even last night, I think at the beginning of the day yesterday, I still had like 9 hours to go. And so I literally listened for like 6 or so hours straight yesterday.
Yeah.
And Gabe texted me at night. He's like, "Hey, do you want to like play some games?" I'm like, "I don't think I can." I'm like, I think I just need to keep going.
I was the
'cause-
opposite. I was like, I don't think I can listen to this anymore. I need to like, I'm doing this all
He's like, "I
morning,
need a
all
break."
day, dude. I need a break.
I was like
That's
Spencer.
great.
I had one day where I listened to about 8 hours, and
Yeah.
that
Dude,
was
that's-
at
that's a
2.4,
whole
which was
workday.
probably like
Crazy.
what 20 hours worth.
Yeah, if not
But I
more.
just sat on my deck
Blows
in
my
the
mind.
sun, enjoying the warmth while I still had it, while my son drove his electric tractor around the backyard.
That's cool.
And just chilled and worked on a
Yeah.
blanket that I've been working on. But no, this book, I was shocked with how much time I had to put in for
Mhm.
this re-listen. It
Yeah.
was
Right.
I think on its own, it's what 30 hours on 1X on regular speed. It's like 30
No,
way
it's
more
as
than
long as
that. It's like
50
it's like
hours
50
or
hours
52
on
hours.
1X.
See, mine
Yeah.
is automatically set to 2X minimum.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's so long that I actually listened at 1.2.
There you
I'm
go.
always at 1.0. I'm always, but not this.
Oh man.
1.2.
Yep.
You'll learn. You'll learn. So, I want to know what everybody thinks of Renarin. Because he was another Kaladin for me where I was like, this guy sucks.
I want to hear Gabe's thoughts. I feel like we haven't heard much of Gabe.
What do you think of
I
Renarin?
don't know, man. I like I'm having a hard time remembering names. I have been this entire
Adeline's little
entire thing.
brother.
Adeline's little brother.
Adeline's
Okay, the only things I really remember is he's kind of like a I guess like a little bit of a tryhard. Like he was really trying to get into Cadeline's bridge crew at some point, right? Like he's like, teach me this, that.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, again, kind of blurry, but he becomes a truth seer. Is that correct? Or like, so he says.
Yeah.
He's got a spren.
He's got a sprint. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think I paid much attention to him this read through.
I can understand that. Your first read through where you don't really pay attention to him, and then you get to the
Yeah,
end.
I just remember like points like where it was involved with like, yeah, the more main characters, I guess, that I was.
There's
like,
so much more you understand about what's happening with Renarin on a reread.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's seriously the next thing I'm gonna do. Like, I'm probably gonna start rereading it tomorrow, just
But
at my own pace.
even on the first read, with what you learned right at the end from Renarin, just reflecting back on some of the things he had done, the ways he was acting makes more sense.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
because you find out towards the end of the book that if someone is a natural radiant, right?
Yeah, somebody that has like a
you what is it? Not bind yourself to a spren. Is it bind? Is that the right word?
Fine,
when you bind yourself to a spren, you cannot touch shard blades because they are the deceased.
Yeah, they're like that's
Spren.
why at the end, like they were telling him, like, or Danilin or somebody was like, don't, as long as you get rid of that horrible thing you've been using and take up like this actual true shard blade that is made from my, sprint or whatever. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Kaladin really doesn't want to touch them.
Yeah.
Because he hears the screaming.
That's right.
In his head.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
That's a crazy thing.
When we saw Renarin in Shardplate, locked up, frozen, he's hearing screaming in his head, and he doesn't
make you go crazy.
He doesn't know what to do.
So why do they hear screaming when they touch the blade though? I didn't understand that.
It's because it's the dead Spren.
Yeah, it's a dead it's
Screaming.
like a dead weapon, like a weapon that's been forged from the death of a Spren or something.
When
That-
did we
that's the
find
way-
that out?
Are honored with a spren bonding to them. Your spren, once you speak a certain amount of the words,
Yeah, it's
will
the
then
binding.
become a shard blade for you.
Yeah,
And
but I
if you're one
feel
of
like
those people,
the shard blades that are out there were like they've been out there. You know, there's like a number of them that are still out there and have been out there, and you can fight and change them between people, but they're still not like the real. They're not the real deal. They're all kind of this. You know,
yeah,
I
like
guess
a true born. Almost think of it as like adoption, where all they've known up until this point with their memory is people who adopt shard blades. But
Yeah.
people who can naturally bond their own shard
a
blades,
true shard blade. What do
are
they call it?
un-
An honor blade, right? It's an honor blade. Oh,
are
is that
unable
different?
to.
Is that different?
No, the honor blades are something different.
Okay.
No, go
Got it.
ahead, Jim. 'Cause I need to understand the
Yeah,
distinction.
I do. I when I said it, I was like, okay, no, they're different because I do remember them talking about the.
We
big-
learned specifically how an honor blade is made
Yeah.
in a future book. So it's not shared yet.
Okay.
But the honor blades are not shard blades.
Okay,
They
yeah.
impart the abilities. We've seen that through
Yeah.
death.
Yep.
But
So
yep.
they're
is
created differently.
Kaladin's spear an honor blade?
No, his spear is. I mean, we see that Syl can
Is
become
basically-
a shard
right.
blade, but can also change into a spear. She can
Yeah.
be whatever he needs her to be.
His
Right.
is like the normal, what should be the norm. Because think of everybody else who has shard blades.
Well,
they
he's
can't
just like a Knight
change
of
what it
Radiance,
looks
right? Like that's what they have. The Knights of Radiance or whatever, they have that ability.
Well,
Because
think of when
my thought was they all have a Syl or they all have a whatever the other one's name
the
is.
reemergence
Pattern.
of it.
Pattern, thank you. Yeah, something like that.
But up until then, it's just shard blades that have been passed on, which are essentially dead Spren's bodies that have been locked into these blades.
Yeah, these like servitude roles.
And so think of later when who is it where Shallan, I believe it's Kaladin is fighting, and Syl realizes, oh, you're better with a spear, and she changes the blade.
That's like one of the
Right.
last
That's
fights.
the
Yeah.
real.
There's a lot
Spren
more
blade.
about this. You're going to learn in the next book.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll just have to
Can't
kind of
really
wait.
explain without ruining some of
Okay.
what
sure.
Well,
we've
don't.
revealed.
That's enough. We need
Yeah.
to read the next book. We need to read the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I think the mystery
So
of it though
going-
is pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the fact that we
it
don't
is.
quite understand it is awesome because I feel like they give you enough information to like, barely just hang yourself with, and so you're like, all right,
Yeah.
this is the way I think it is, and then you think about it, nope, it's got to be something different or something else. I don't know, it's kind of
Right. Yeah. My whole thing going back to Renarin is I was just like, man, he's so mopey. Like he's even more mopey than Kaladin. And in one scene he'll be like, yeah, I want to join the bridge crew, and then in another scene he'll just be like sitting there like in his armor. Dalinar even says, I've never seen a man stand so like awkwardly in his armor or something. Like he's just like, I don't really want to be here, like kicking rocks around. Like it's like, why are you even like trying then? Like why are you getting in plate? Like why don't you just like sit in the castle and do a different job? Like oh man, he just annoyed me so much. And maybe I just don't understand him yet, but in this book I was just like, dear God, like
cool. Jim's laughing. He's laughing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say you're gonna view Renarin differently when you learn more. That's
Sure.
all.
Awesome.
Okay. So one of the notes I have here is Yasna has started the process of marrying Shallan to Adolin, and obviously this is a very early note from when I had like just started this book. But one thing that I thought was cool about this whole scene is that this is essentially an arranged marriage within nobility that we see a lot in fantasy books. And a lot of the times in other fantasy books, it's kind of looked down on. It's looked at as like a type of like slavery or something like that. where it's often viewed as a bad thing, like, oh, this arranged marriage, like you're just marrying your daughter off to this person. Um, but I love this scene where Yasna tells Shallan about it, and she's super excited about it. And Yasna says, like, you're not upset about me binding you to a man. And Shallan even says, no, it's not as if it's slavery. And Yasna's like, right,
Yeah,
sure.
I never
Because
got the impression
she
she was.
obviously views it as like a type of slavery.
Yeah, I never got the
But
impression that she was super excited about it, but she was just like, okay, yeah, no, that's not as bad as I
no,
thought.
she was stoked. Like, she was outright like, let's go. That's a great idea.
I just remember her going in there to that thing, and she's trying to balance like these three other human beings that she's sneak tricking everybody that she's trying to be, like the trying to mess with the ghost bloods and trying to trick everybody. So I'm like,
Yeah.
how much of that was like, just like, oh, this sounds good to further my, goals here, or how much of it was like, oh, I can't wait to get married.
Well, look at
Well,
Shallan's context.
yeah.
Okay, she was raised with the knowledge that someday she would be married off
Yeah,
to
yeah,
her family's benefit. Okay,
Mhm.
that's all she's known. That's
Yep.
all she's ever been able to understand. Now she's in a circumstance where she has the agency to agree to this plan
Right.
and knows that right now her family's totally screwed and this could save it.
She's like, this is the best case scenario. Like,
And
this is
wow,
awesome.
yeah, I will have the freedom to do things that there's no other way any of this will happen. Without this, life will suck. Royally
Right.
suck.
Well, I
That's
like
fair.
when she
That's
first
fair.
meets Dalinar and she's like, no, my family's destitute. Like, we have nothing to offer you. And he's
Right.
like, well, then why would Yasna want to bind you to my son? And she goes, well, when was the last time Yasna took a ward? And he's like,
Yeah.
she's like, so that should tell you everything you need
Something
to know.
special.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved that whole scene with her meeting Dalinar for the first time. Like, that was such a great moment where she kind of everybody gets to interact. Like, I think in the previous episode I had said I'm so excited for the time when all of these characters are in the same room and we're seeing them all in the same place.
Yeah.
And that was this scene where she's gotten what's his name, Vasher, I think, and all of his like merry band of bandits, and she like does her like rousing speech like, you can be better men. Like, oh, that was such a good scene too.
With like
But-
Gaz, how great was the Gaz scene where she like
Gaz.
Redemption arc for Gaz, man.
Yeah.
To see him have a chance now because he's just been crud underneath Bridge 4's heels, because
Yeah.
we didn't like him. We had every reason not to like him, and now a different side to Gaz.
And then
Right.
she draws all the photos for them, but in a way of like, this is what I see they could be.
Yes.
And just
Oh,
the
that was beautiful.
inspiration of them seeing these drawings of themselves in the way that they want to see themselves, and it gives them that inspiration to like,
Yes.
yeah, I can do this. Like, that was probably one of my favorite little moments in
Yes.
the book,
That was
Yeah.
so good. I forget which of the bandits it was, but he was like, is this what I really look like? And she's like, yes. Like, this is like, no, but yes. Like,
No, but
it's
Isn't
so
that
good.
one that
It's
ends
so
up
good.
dying?
dead, and she finds
And
the
she
picture
finds
in
the
his
picture.
pocket.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a moment.
Yeah, it made me almost cry. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah.
man
Yep.
saw this photo of himself of who he wanted to be, and so
He had like kept it with him in his
And
pocket.
it made him
like,
aspire to be that picture. He
Yes.
wanted to be
Yeah.
that picture.
oh my gosh. And
It's
then
to a lot of different, just like, okay, like, is what's holding a lot of us back just like the motivation or the
Mhm.
inspiration that we can do these things that we don't think we can do? It was beautiful.
it was
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
good. And then when she goes to Dalinar and she's like, I promised these men that they would be pardoned. And Dalinar's like, Okay, and so he pardons them, and she gets to go out there and like tell them that they're part. Oh man, that was so good. It was so good. And then they remained her like bodyguards for the rest of the book, and I'm sure they'll be there for the rest of the series. I hope. Um, like I just loved everything that that turned into, especially because it was on the tail of like her being like chased by them for like 3 days. Like it was
Yeah.
this looming threat where it's like we see the campfires in the distance. We know they're coming towards our camp. We know that they're going to try to steal all of our stuff and take our women and all this, everything. And then for it to turn into this whole other thing, it's such a good storyline. I loved
just
it
heard
so
a
much.
Conan vibe there. Take
Yeah, I
our
did too.
women.
Take our women.
See, I was thinking more like Name of the Wind, where Kvothe saves the two girls from
Yeah,
the
I think it was
fake
just the way that
travelers.
Spencer said it. It was like that. It was Conan vibe for sure.
What is best in life? Okay.
Yeah.
Why does the tattoo not take to Kaladin, but his scar stays? Do we ever find this out?
Yes,
Okay.
but not yet.
Okay. Okay. I was just
Look
curious.
No?
forward.
Okay.
You find
Okay.
out Rhythm of War.
Rhythm
Okay.
of War.
Okay.
I thought that was explained, but I guess I'm just extrapolating.
Yeah, I mean, you could guess why it won't take. At
But you
this
won't know
point.
for sure until.
Yeah,
Right.
because I don't think I know yet. Like I don't think I have any sort
Paladin
of
doesn't
theory.
know yet at this
Yeah,
point. He
yeah.
doesn't understand either.
be
He's like,
guessing.
well, guess that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I love this quote, Shallan. It's when like Yasna's just gotten like assassinated and all this stuff. And Shallan's like, Pattern, we're gonna soul cast the bottom of the ship and sink it. And if you're listening to the audiobook, Pattern's voice is so funny.
Whoa, what?
he's like, what? Confused. It's like,
Exactly.
I love how
so
Pattern
funny.
sounds in the audio.
Pattern's awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh god.
And you
He's
also said
great.
there it was like kind of like Foundry side, and I was like, dude, that's a great point.
Yeah, because
That's like a really good point.
Because she's like convincing the
Yeah, she's
stick to
convincing
become
this-
fire,
yes,
and that's
yeah.
exactly what Foundry side was.
yeah,
is
that's what
like
their
they
whole
have to
magic system
convince
is.
an object.
That was
Yeah.
cool. It made me want to go back and reread Foundry side.
But yeah, Pattern was amazing. I loved everything about him throughout this whole book. The way I don't really like Michael Kramer as an audiobook narrator, but what he did with Pattern was super funny.
It's so funny you say something about audiobook narrator, because my girlfriend, who I love so much, she reads all of the same things that we read, told me that she started The Lies of Locke Lamora. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God,
Bring her
I'm
on the
so
podcast.
excited.
Bring her on the podcast. Come on.
We would love
Come
that.
on.
But the weird thing is that's why I'm looking through my phone right now, is because she said she didn't love the narrator for Lies of Locke Lamora.
What?
And
Banned from the podcast.
Ban from the podcast. Ban from the podcast.
was that a Stephen Fry that we listened to when
It
I
was-
listened?
I think it's Michael Page.
I'm gonna check right now.
Okay, but I had said to her, because we had a birthday party today. My son was invited. It's my girlfriend's kid. And she is like got lined up on her to watch list all of our podcast episodes based on the books that I've
Nice.
been telling her to read.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Michael Page. Michael Page.
She
is
has
the narrator
finally
for
got
this.
into Lies of Locke Lamora, and I went, listen, like, I loved these books. I didn't want to love them. I started the first one twice before I finally on the third try got
I wanted
through
to
it.
hate them, but they're so
Yeah.
good.
But I admitted to her, I go, listen, if it
Yeah.
wasn't for the podcast, I don't know that I would have finished them in the same speed that I
Yeah.
would have finished
Yeah.
them naturally.
Mm.
And I was like, well, what version are you listening to? Because I was like, I thought we listened to a Scott Lynch, Stephen Fry version, and I guess we had not.
No, it's just the other guy.
Stephen
Yeah,
Fry does
Stephen-
First Law.
Okay. Well, he did the Harry Potter books, no?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Stephen Fry is Harry Potter. Who's
Okay.
So the
Stephen
only
Pacey.
Stephen
is First
Pacey.
Law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then okay. Yeah, and then Lies of Locke Lamora's Michael Page.
Yeah. Sorry, I was
Page and
just so
Pacey.
confused when she was telling me about it, because I was like, I listened to them. I was like,
Yeah.
I did not mind them
They're amazing.
at all. So I was very confused by her saying that she did not like the narrator. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe that was a Stephen Fry and you didn't get the Stephen Fry. I couldn't remember at the time.
Yeah, that's heresy. That's
Yeah, but
heresy.
I liked that. I liked them. I
Oh
did.
yeah.
I agree. She also said that she only listened to half of Red Rising because this is fair, wait, because I made her read The Will of the Many, and she read The Will of the Many first and then went to Red Rising and went, no, this is the same thing and not as good. So she just DNF'd it.
No
Yeah,
way.
I think I can't remember when I stopped reading Red Rising. I think it was the third book, right? Something like
I
that.
stopped on 4 or 5.
You read the first 3.
Okay, then I stopped, like, I guess starting the 4th, maybe.
Yeah.
I've read them all. They're amazing. Come on.
Yeah, they were
They're
awesome
so
books,
good.
dude. Awesome books. There's nothing, I couldn't say anything bad about them. It was just bad timing on my part.
Yeah, once I got into space, I was like, this is too much for me. I can't imagine space. It's just too out of my depth. I can't do it.
They're awesome.
Okay.
You're wrong. You're wrong.
I'm gonna let my brain know.
I get you,
So
Sam.
it's
It's okay. It's
So,
okay.
Sam,
They
you
just
haven't
don't
read The
understand.
Expanse either?
What?
What's that?
The Expanse? Have you read that?
No, because my thing is
Space.
I am not
Okay.
great with sci-fi because I am better if I can look at something visually and then listen or read something because I have a frame of reference. If I have absolutely no frame of reference, it doesn't impact me.
Okay.
My brain needs that source material first.
But you've
It's
never
like-
seen like a sci-fi movie for that source material?
I
Like,
have, but like when it comes to space, it's just too vast
Why
and
is there-
large, and my brain gets overloaded.
And Stormlight isn't?
No,
So,
it's not in space.
wow, that blows my
There is
mind a little
something
bit.
about space.
Because
Like,
there's so much here that I mean, in the Cosmere and all that we can't. Well, you haven't read a lot of the Cosmere yet, though.
no,
you're just-
I've only read Mistborn, but I like to point at Game of Thrones a lot, where I loved Game of Thrones on its own, and then I watched the show, and then when I reread the books, I was able to visualize the people from the show, and it
Mhm.
made it a million times better for me.
Okay.
I unfortunately, my brain is incapable of creating its own imagery. I need that source material, and then I can go from there.
All right.
I hate it.
viewers, vote down below if you think we should kick Sam off the podcast. Okay, next note.
He's like, "We're gonna move on."
Adolin's duels. Anytime Adolin is fighting is so sick.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my god.
Yeah, he's a fighter, dude. He's real smart.
I love the first one that we see where he's like talking about like he's like, I'm usually in like wind stance because it's more like flowy, it's kind of showy. And then he's like, I'm gonna go for fire stance, and then right when he goes into the duel, he switches to iron, and he just beats the crap out of this guy, like breaking every part of his armor into pieces. And he's like, that was like his whole thing during this book was like, I need like a big spectacle, and so he was hoping that that would be his like big spectacle, and like people called him out on it, and he's like, did I break any rules? Did I break any rules? And they're like, no, I guess not. And then of course like his next matches were amazing, and of course I loved the flip on him where he's like, he tells the other guy, you know, let's do like a 2-on-1, but he accidentally says bring whoever you want, and so they bring 3 other shard bearers, and he steps into this arena. It's like 4-on-1.
And the judge
just
was right there when he said that. He said, "Do you realize what you said?" It's like, yeah, fine. Oh, yeah.
Oh god. Yeah, and he's completely outmatched. And then of course like Renarin goes in, who's basically freaking useless, and then Dalinar is going around to people like, well, anybody, I know you guys are shard plate, you know, havers and shard blade users and stuff. He's like, will none of you jump in to help my son? And then you just
Including
hear Kaladin,
Amaram.
including Amaram, and Kaladin just like walks up behind him and he's like, "Hold my beer," and jumps into the arena.
It's a great moment.
It's so good, dude. It was so good. And then of course when Kaladin, like, he's just in there like in his uniform with like a normal spear, and he gets the best of one of them and he's like, "Give me your helmet." And he like puts that around his hand and it like sucks itself up to like his wrist, and so he's able
The
to use it
shield,
as like a shield.
Yep.
Oh
Well, you know, as
man.
everybody watched Kaladin jump in, they're all
Mhm.
like, "What is that idiot doing?" But Amaram was probably up there going, "Oh crap,"
Yeah,
because he knows Kaladin's beaten a guy before in the
right.
same circumstance, just with a spear.
Right. Right.
He can take a shard guy. He can do it.
Or when
Yeah.
Kaladin first calls him out, and they say that he like visibly like is taken aback, like he's been slapped, like
Yeah.
like he forgot about him, was shocked.
Yeah.
That was a phenomenal moment.
Yeah.
Even
Exactly.
regardless of how it turned out, it was
Yeah.
still an amazing moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I love this not really a speech, but just kind of like Shallan standing up to Vlakev, who's like the slaver that like picks her up near the beginning of the book.
Yep.
And at first she's like kind of shy a little bit, but then she starts to think more and more like, I need to be what Yasna is. Like, she doesn't let anybody push her around.
She has a
And
WWJD band, but it means Yasna. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. What would Yasna do? And she's like, Yasna just like embodies this like, I am nobility and you will respect me kind of thing. And so I love this quote from Shallan when she's talking to Vlakev.
Yeah.
She says, "Do not toy with me, slaver. You have no idea the storm you have wandered into. Take your petty schemes and stuff them in a crevice. Do as I say, and you will see your debts canceled. You will be a free man once again." And it was just like, oh, and he's standing there like, oh my god, like,
Yeah, and
okay.
that entire time she has these inner monologues about like, oh, this is what she meant about being like assertive and being, like more. I can't remember what she says, but that entire
Yeah.
scene, there's points where she's like, oh, this is why she does that, and then she pulls
Right.
that out of her hat, and she's like, this is
Yep.
why this works.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and we see that so much, like all the time. She's like throughout this book, she's like putting on this this
hardcore
face.
like
Yeah.
I'm the queen mask, basically.
Right.
But it's a very telling thing. I mean, it's true to form with life. A lot of times you can accomplish stuff if you just actually believe you can do it.
Right. Yeah.
Or sometimes even fake it till you make it. But
Fake
if
it till you
everybody
make it.
else is looking at you and thinks, "Oh, she believes she can do that," okay, I guess you can do that. It works.
Social engineering, man, at its finest.
Yeah. And just like walking like you have a purpose.
Yeah, like
and,
walking. Like I read this thing the other day about like free unlimited breakfast. Go into any hotel with a complimentary breakfast and go sit down like you rent a room there and you eat. Nobody's gonna say a word to you. Get breakfast every day.
Yeah.
That's so true. It's like the confidence.
Yeah.
So I have a question about Syl. There, at a certain point, she says, "I am a god, or at least a little piece of one." And then later on, Kaladin asks her, he says, "I have to know if honor is dead." And she says, "He is, but he lives on in the hearts of men and in me." So I imagine there's got to be, just like we have, what says it, Harmony.
Harmony.
We have Harmony and Ruin. Is
Yep.
honor another one of these shards? That's a shard, right? Harmony is a shard.
Yeah, Harmony's a shard. Yeah, I mean that's probably where I thought it was too. I don't know if that's true or not, but it makes sense.
Just keep reading.
Yeah, Raffo, my friends, Raffo.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I just figure she's got to be a part of. I gotta assume honor. Honor is a shard, and then there was somebody, Order. Order was at the end of the book, and Order visited Seth, and he gave him is that the sword from Warbreaker? I
Do
mean, it
you,
is,
do you want
right?
an absolute answer?
I mean, I'm certain it
And
is,
you don't
right?
like any spoilers, so like, no, we can't answer that for you. Like,
Well,
no,
But I
no,
mean, I know Warbreaker though.
yeah, we can kind of answer this one because knowing Warbreaker, you know the answer already.
Okay. Okay. All right.
That's
I'm
the sword.
shocked
The
that
sword you were talking
Spencer
about.
even asked
Yeah.
this question.
Okay.
I
Okay.
am shocked, right, Gabe? Like, Spencer doesn't ask.
No,
spoiler
but if I'm theorizing, like if I'm going down a rabbit trail, I don't mind like theorizing and getting stuff figured out.
Yeah. Well, if the thing you were just talking about was the sword at the end, right?
Yeah.
That started talking and saying like, "Oh, ready
Having
for
read
some violence?
Let's go
We're
kill
gonna end
evil.
some.
Yeah.
everything
Go
that's
kill
right
evil."
there in the book,
Yeah,
all
that
that
was
you see,
that was a super clear note to Warbreaker for sure.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
just like,
I'm
yeah.
just trying to figure out where Spencer draws his line. You know what I mean?
I don't
my
know
line
that. I've never known that. I've tried to figure that out my entire life. I have no
my
fucking clue where he draws his line.
my
Gabe, I'm
line
analytical. I need to fucking try to figure out this. Okay.
notice I
So here's-
didn't give Spencer the answer. I said, Spencer, you know the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then from that he inferred, okay, we know what that is.
Yeah,
See,
okay.
like,
So
fair.
here's
Yeah.
here's my line.
wants to like
Okay.
get spoilers without the accountability of saying I asked for spoilers.
Here's my line.
Gabe laughs. He knows.
I love to theorize, and I love to like try to figure things out ahead of times. Like if you watch any of our Dresden Files episodes, it's all like theories about like what's happened, like how these things connect.
Sure.
What I don't like spoiled for me is like if somebody were to say like later on in Stormlight, Kaladin actually kills Dalinar and like becomes the king, or like Dalinar kills Elhokar and becomes the king. That's
there's
like not something I would like spoil.
plot line leading up to, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah,
know
but if
that would come.
but if there's like enough things where I can like draw the lines between things and like kind of connect them, I don't mind that. I just don't want to be like, I don't want to find out like what happens at the end of the book kind of thing.
Now,
I guess.
I'll also tell you the guy you're calling Order.
Yeah.
There's enough clues that you could know more about that person already too. You just haven't put the pieces together yet.
Okay.
Ooh.
But they're
That's
there.
fair. That doesn't surprise me at all. That's why I'm like, we need to read this again.
And
just to
yeah,
find out.
exactly. On a reread, it
Yeah.
screams out at you some
Yeah.
of these things, and you're like, "How did I miss that the first time?"
Huh. Okay, interesting.
There's enough meat here, dude, in this book to like I make some connections. I just
I read
don't know.
this book probably 8 times now, and every time I reread it, it's like
Something new.
reading
You get
for the
something new.
first time in a way.
Or that, yeah.
Not
Yep.
in the sense that like I don't know what's going to happen, but every time you reread it, 5, 6, 7,
It's like the Dresden
catch new
Files.
Yep.
things.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Zach and I
amazing.
have on our channel a recent episode on my specific recommendations before people read Wind and Truth.
Yeah.
And one of those recommendations is you need to reread all 4 of these books before you do number 5.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not that you can't just read book 5, but you will not appreciate it to the degree you ought to if you haven't
Unless
done a
you've-
reread, because there's
yeah.
too much you've missed.
Yep. That's
And
fair.
it's going to be
That's-
too good to do that to yourself.
That's fair.
Now, very popular episode on, I mean, it shot up over 1,000 views like
Yeah.
that. People are into this, but half the people are like, this is crap advice. And I'm like, okay, you haven't done a reread apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to reread it all and then tell me that this is crap. Come on.
Right.
Come on.
right.
Yeah, I mean 5, 6, 7 times in you're gonna catch new stuff. It's just
Sure.
The best books are like that.
And
Yeah.
it's just like the fact that an author is able to write a book where, I mean, granted, I am very annoyed with George R.R. Martin and the way that he just like stopped writing Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, you know. But I look back on his Hodor hold the door moment, and I'm like, the fact that people are able to write this. Sanderson is a a Picasso, a Monet, like in the way that he is able to write these books years before he writes another book, and the tiniest moments come back as these huge moments. And I challenge people to give me more than one hand of authors that they know can do that.
Jim
That's why
Butcher.
it
Jim
blows my
Butcher does some of
mind.
that in the Dresden Files, but he's
Yeah,
also
Dresden
hilarious
Files.
because
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, look at all this.
in his earlier books, he just throws out all sorts of crap and then comes back later and goes, "Okay, what did I write back then? I could, I'll use
let's
that
tie
now."
this in here.
Yeah.
He knows he needs
Yeah.
something to tie in
Right.
later.
So he was thinking
Yeah.
forward, but he didn't have everything mapped out. Not like Sanderson. Sanderson's crazy good with this.
That's why I'm so surprised, Sam, that you haven't gotten through Mistborn, because if you could just like,
Mistborn
man,
is so good, Sam.
it's literally that compressed
reread
into
it.
like a
Yeah.
shot,
And
like
better
an
on
I've read
adrenaline
it
shot
once,
of that.
and then reread it, I think 2 more times after that. And
I mean,
exactly what Jim said. Every reread got so much like exponentially better that I was lost. It's
Well,
so
listen.
good.
Spencer, Jim, I love your recommendation, but Gabe is my soul brother. Like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
are just on the same page.
Always in sync, Sam. Always in
Everything.
sync. You and I
Like,
are.
I always joke that like we gang up on Spencer on all of the.
No, he just doesn't. He just
No,
doesn't know
because-
what we go through. That's all.
So I love
Nobody
anyone's
knows.
recommendation, but if Gabe gives me one, I mean, okay.
Yeah, I will say, if you ever plan on reading Mistborn again, Sam, with my whole heart, I think that it will be. So you never read it, have you?
I
She's read the
book
first one.
twice.
Okay, you read the first one.
Twice.
Okay, twice.
I'm just gonna jump into book 2. I'm not doing a reread again.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's
I
fair.
can't deal with Kel's death again. I can't
Yeah,
do it.
that's fair. That's fine.
Sorry.
I think if you were to read books 2 and 3 and like them in
report
any
back.
way, and then report back in the future and maybe reread them, you'd be where I'm at. Because unless you read books 2 and 3 and you're like, oh my god, I see all of it, then you're where I'm at already.
I think you're the only person that could convince me at this point. Gabe, I truly think you are the only person.
No, I love that. I love that. I'm glad
true.
I
Right
can be that
there?
for you, Sam. I'm glad I can be that for you.
I have nothing pressing at the moment. For you,
Do
Gabe,
it.
I can do that.
I would.
Nice.
I'm almost tempted to do it with you.
Right? But I mean,
Yeah.
book 2, honestly, book 2 is gonna suck all the way through.
Yeah,
Like, it just is.
It'll be a
Now,
little
like-
bit of a
you
slog.
told me that before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be a little bit of a slog, but it's important still,
Yeah.
regardless of that.
Okay, well, listen,
Yeah.
I like. I said,
Jim's like, I don't know.
It wasn't that bad.
I can do it.
It's a
I
good
can
book.
do it.
It's a good book.
I'll do
I
it.
book 2 of Mistborn is by far my least favorite book in the Cosmere, like entirely.
Yeah,
Like,
I would disagree with that.
I do not
Don't
like that
tell me
book.
it's book
like, at
3,
all.
Gabe, then, because I'm not gonna read
No,
it.
no,
No,
none
three's
of the
fantastic.
Mistborn. None of the Mistborn. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on a little bit. We got to talk about Zyle, because this is another really
Oh, the
interesting
old crotchety
character.
crotchety teacher.
And I'm like, is he a world hopper because he's using phrases that people like don't know?
Yeah.
And it just seems like there's something more to him. And when we had Bookborn on here, she specifically said, she's like, keep an eye out for people that are using phrases from like other like
Other
Cosmere
areas. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's specifically mentioned in this book that every time he like cracks a joke or something, Kaladin's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "It's a phrase. Don't worry about it." And so I'm kind of wondering if he's from another planet. And he also seems to be like very experienced in a lot of different ways. And there's one night, it's like this random scene. I can't even remember when exactly it happens, but he's like heading to bed and he remarks that he always like expects to hear a voice in his head before he goes to sleep, but he hadn't heard one in years. And so I'm like, I don't know like what that means, but it's just another point in the on the side
The
of
weird
like
factor,
he's just
yeah.
kind of weird and
Yeah.
there's got to be something different going on with him.
I mean, you and Gabe can discuss that.
So I'm excited to find out
Yeah.
who he is.
Yeah.
Hoyd tells the carriage driver, "I need an objective experience by which to judge your company to," and hits himself in the
Cracked
face
me
with a
up,
rock
dude.
5 times.
5 times. He's like, that's what it took. That's what it took to.
He's like, I need
I
something
needed
to
5
compare
times.
your
5
company
times.
to.
That's what it's gonna take.
It was pretty good.
Pretty funny.
Oh, I love that. I love Hoyd so much. Let's see. Spren. Oh, Shallan mentions in a flashback that the Spren do not populate where there are many gathered together, which is odd because you would think that's where like emotions would be the highest.
Highest,
And-
yeah.
And so I wonder why we don't get Spren populating where there's like a crowd of people. That's kind of interesting.
I've also been really interested in just like Spren in general. Like, imagine anytime you had any emotion, you wouldn't really be able to hide it if a certain Spren
Right?
next to you. They'd
Yeah,
be like,
they're
"Oh no, you're
fascinating.
actually jealous. You're not happy."
Yeah, you got jealousy
Right.
around you. Yeah, like come on out. Or oh, you're
And
you're
the
mad. I can
husband's
see
like,
the anger
"Oh,
sprint.
I'm sorry, dear," and it's the angry spread.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like anxiety Spren just next to me at
Yeah.
all times.
It
Like,
could solve
Right.
a lot of problems,
Oh, good.
actually. Just think how much miscommunication takes place because people don't understand how their words are being received.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What are the
Man.
couple of Spren that are like that were kind of like unknown in this book, or like new Spren that came up halfway? Like was like Lightning Spren was or something like that. Lightning Spren, or maybe
we got Rain
I don't know,
Spren, which I thought
There was like Pattern.
yeah, Pattern's
'cause-
weird. He's a different one. He's a new one for sure. I just remember there being scenes where somebody was like, "Oh, I just saw these Spren that I've never heard of before." Like they were
So
like,
there's,
or like the red arrow Spren, like at the end, the whole battle with where all their eyes were
Mhm.
turning red in the storm,
Yep.
the two converging storms. I
You're
guess.
going to
'Cause
learn
they're
more
all-
about that.
Okay.
They're all emotions, right? Like they're all different kinds
they're
of
all like thoughts and
emotions.
emotions.
it's the ones that everyone keeps saying these Spren are wrong. Something's not right with them.
Or yeah, something.
Spren are
Oh.
wrong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we do get that thing with like Dalinar at the beginning of the book where he goes into the dream and they're like hunting a Spren that has like red eyes or something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that
Mhm.
one. And then like even with the like when Shallan and Kaladin they're in the crevices, whatever
Mhm.
they're called, chasms, and they see the
Chasm,
chasm fiend and they see those like red arrow Spren, right?
Yep.
That are around him, which is I don't think they've
I
seen
totally
that
missed
before. Yeah,
And
I don't
you
think they've
noted-
seen those before.
You noted there's all these emotion spren that show up,
Yeah.
but there's also patterns of spren and Syl's
Yeah.
an honor spren.
Hmm.
Keep paying attention to that. There is a difference.
Okay.
You're going to learn more about,
Okay.
between some. Not all spren are the same. Let's just
Okay.
say that.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That's good to know. Speaking of that, the chasm fiend, that scene was awesome
Oh,
where
so
Shallan
cool.
like makes a mirror image of Kaladin and it
Yes.
attacks the mirror image and then he
And
goes
he's
in
like
with
confused
the
the
sword.
whole time. Like he doesn't even know what's happening until
Yeah,
later.
he thought it was him.
Yeah,
He thought he
he's
was
like,
the
"How
one
am I
making
doing
it."
this? What's
Yeah.
happening? I can't do
She
this."
told him she just wanted her like satchel bag. She was like, "I just want my bag back."
Yeah.
I
She's
need
like,
Yeah.
go to the left. So
Yeah,
I
go
can
to
get
the
my
left so I
satchel.
can get my
And
satchel.
the
He's
whole
like, "Really?"
comedy of errors that they all
Yeah.
fall down into the chasm. They're the only two that survive, and they both think they must have saved the other.
Yes,
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
How did Adolin save was it Dalinar that he was jumping after to save? Because all of the main characters were on the bridge, right? It was like Kaladin, Adolin, Dalinar, Shallan.
No, some of them were not on. Like they had gotten off already or something. I mean, they didn't all go
Okay.
down in.
I'm the one who realized that she recognized the one man from
Yeah.
Sabariel's camp with the scar on his face.
Right.
So she immediately realized something was wrong. I don't think everyone was on the bridge.
Yeah, the alarm was raised. And then the guy had to throw the bridge anyways then, since people are
Because of it.
scattering. So some of them got
Okay.
off. Dalinar didn't fall in, you know.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
Some of them got off.
Dalinar didn't. Adeline didn't.
Right. It was basically Kaladin, Shallan, and a bunch of red shirts.
Yeah,
Mm.
Right. Okay.
soldiers.
Okay.
And they both thought that they survived
Because of one
because
another, yeah.
themselves.
He
Right.
thought he saved her, and she thought she
Because-
saved him.
Because
and
Yeah.
she
neither
didn't.
realizes the other has powers.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. What
I mean, how great is it when you think of when Dalinar first says to Kaladin, "Are you the one I've been looking for?" And he's like, "No."
yes.
And then later, when it finally comes out, he's like, "Are you the one I've been looking for?" And he's like, "Yes."
Yeah,
Turns
so
out-
good.
Of course, he
So
reveals,
good.
"Yes, I am," while saving you in the sky and bringing
Yeah.
you
Right.
back
Yeah.
Oh,
down.
dude, let's talk about the Kaladin Seth fights. There was a few of them in this
Oh,
book,
they were
and they
awesome.
were all so amazing. They were so good. Like the first one is obviously like Seth attacks at the keep.
Yep.
And
And
they,
they
like,
fend
fight-
him off. Yep.
Yeah, they fight in the hallway, and they're like, "What is he doing? He's throwing people onto the ceiling and the walls and all this stuff."
And then Seth end with that fight with like, no, I'm the only, right, or something like that, and he takes off.
I'm truthless.
Yeah.
I'm truthless. Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't. I'm sure I missed a ton. I didn't understand his truthless thing. So hopefully you guys can explain that to me. I didn't quite get.
I think that's already hasn't that been explained already enough in this
Yeah,
book?
no, I think
like
it
an
has. I just
interlude
think
or
I missed
something?
it. Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm looking at Sam there.
Well,
That
I
has
think
been
yeah,
explained enough,
Jim's
hasn't it?
asking Sam if he can
Oh,
talk about
okay.
it.
Seth has been told that his radiant powers, which is not as what it, how it was told to him is what it was, right, Jim? And that's why he needs to be the person who holds a stone, and whoever holds it can tell him whatever to do because he's truthless.
Because he's convinced that there's nobody else like him. Is kind of what I grabbed from it, right?
He's like the
Now,
apocalypse, the devil baby.
yeah,
That's how I interpreted it.
now you've read these, Sam, a bunch more than I have, so you're probably right, but I don't think you are. So
Please tell me, please.
because again, trying to piece together things
No,
that they
it's
already
okay,
know
it's
through these
okay,
first
yeah.
two books, but
Sure.
in Seth is a Shin. He's
Yep.
Right.
from Shinovar. We've met.
Yep.
We've been over there in
Yes.
interludes in
Yeah,
Shinovar.
yeah.
Okay, so there were people who know things about, honor blades and stuff over
Yeah.
in Shinovar. So
Yep.
he somehow comes to believe that the Radiance are coming back. That's what he believes, and he's told, no, you're 100% wrong, and you need to completely disavow that. And he's like, no, it's happening. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I know it. And so he refused to back down, so they made him truthless, meaning you are 100% wrong. We disavow you. You are kicked
Okay.
out, and here's a rock.
Okay.
Okay, and
And
now
the
that
rock-
rock made it that he had.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
basically you do not have the ability to know truth because you're convinced of a lie. So
Okay.
we have
Gotcha.
cast you out.
That makes
and
sense.
the only
then
truth you may
Whoever holds
believe
that
now
rock.
is whoever has this rock. You have to
Okay.
listen and
Interesting.
believe
Okay.
them and whatever they
Gotcha.
say, because you have no ability to judge.
That
You've
makes-
clearly shown you.
Yep.
That's how I've interpreted
Okay.
it.
No,
That-
that makes
that
so
makes
much
sense.
more sense.
Yeah, that
makes Yeah.
That's how I interpreted it. It clicks things that weren't clicking for me into place where I'm like, oh, now
Yeah,
that-
it just makes sense why he was, because he was so concerned. He's like, no,
Yes.
no, there's no more. There's no more out there.
Well,
This
and
is not
Yeah.
possible.
and the Shin culture is very isolated.
Closed,
It's very
Yeah.
closed in.
amongst
Yep.
themselves. So
Yep.
when
Yep.
he's cast out, he basically believes somehow he must have been wrong
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they would not accept what he knew.
Yeah.
So he is truthless. So therefore, he has to do whatever the
Yep.
person with the rock has, and he's done some bad things.
Yeah. But that's
And
also why
he
he's like,
killed
Yep.
Galavar.
Yep.
He's done these things, and now if Kaladin is radiant,
yeah.
then wait a second, I was right.
And that's why
Yeah.
he's like, I'm done. I'm
Well,
done with these
But
murders.
think of what that means to him. that
was
all
huge.
these things I did under
Ever
orders,
known were incorrect.
I shouldn't have been doing
Yep.
because I
Mhm.
was right. And
Yep.
if I simply stood up for myself instead of bowing to the
Would have been
elders
I
and
would have been
becoming
correct. Yeah.
truthless, I wouldn't have killed all these people. And
Yeah.
whoa, the whole world is coming
And that was
crashing
the
in on
scene I'm
Seth.
remembering. I think it's the last fight that him and Calendar have is like Zeth gets stabbed through the spinal cord, right?
Yeah.
But after he just says, "Okay, this was all a lie.
Yes,
This was all
exactly. He gets
not what
stabbed
I
because
thought
he
it was."
gives up. He's
He
like,
gives
there's no
up.
point to
Yep.
any of this. I
Yep.
deserve
Yeah.
to die.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
feel like I felt
Cool.
a lot of sympathy for Seth in a lot of
Yes.
ways that a lot of people don't, only because I love a true crime documentary. I love this girl. Her podcast is Liz Explains. She does a Patreon. She does something different
Yep.
every
My
week.
wife's listening to it all the
But
time.
it's a lot of the things that I also love outside of my fantasy novels. And one of those things is cults. I love the dichotomy.
You guys
I
keep track.
need to understand how this came to be, how this happened, how we got where we are, why you did what you did for the person, yada yada yada. And I feel like this book in a lot of ways has some parallels with Seth, where he has grown up. Okay, look at the FLDS, the people with the multiple wives, right? People see these women and they're like, well, why don't you just leave? And it's like, this is all they have known.
Yeah. It's all he's known. Yep.
Totally.
They
For sure.
believe this man preaching to them gets word from God. Okay?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that is what they have been raised as.
Yep.
So that's where I put myself in these books where I'm like, okay, I think this is insane. Granted, I'm an atheist. I believe in a higher power, but I do not have any God I ascribe to. I grew up Catholic. My husband is Jewish. I am open to everything. I am not going to put anything down. But when you grow up in these totalitarian environments and that's all you know, we cannot make judgment with the environment we have grown up in.
Yeah.
You're
Knowing
spot on, though. We are supposed to feel empathy for Zeth.
Yeah.
Absolutely, by the end here. We are supposed to feel terrible for him.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah,
Yep,
and I feel like
absolutely.
Sanderson tries to trick you a little bit and be like, oh no, here's another one that is like bad, but is good, and you're like, okay, I don't know which way to go on this, but if you view it from his point of view, and he's been told his whole life he's Satan's, child that's come to be to take over everything, what would that be like to realize your whole life has been a lie? What would
That's
that be
pretty much what happened to him. He's like, my life's been
Yeah.
a lie. That's
Yeah.
like the bottom end of the thing that happened. He's like, my life was a lie. Which
Can you imagine that though? Like
Nope.
today.
I can't imagine that. It's not something I could ever comprehend.
Yeah.
I give him a lot of sympathy just for that fact.
It's crazy shit.
And just wait what you're going to learn in the next. Ah.
I can't wait.
So I have a question. Hoyd mentions he says something like, this is so much easier with perfect pitch. Is that
Ooh, yeah.
that's a magic from another Cosmere thing, right?
It does happen to be. Mhm.
Trying to remember. I can't remember if it's Warbreaker or not, or if it's
Probably not.
something else. Is it something? Is it
Well, I'll
something
tell
that
you,
you've
it's
read?
from Warbreaker or
Okay.
not.
Or screw you, Jim.
Oh, love Jim. Love that guy.
Spoil
Love that guy.
anything for
That
me,
guy's
Jim.
awesome.
I am okay with any spoilers.
Is it
Good.
is it from something we've read already?
Probably not. It just
You,
sounds.
yes. Sam, no.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
I
Wow,
like
now
the
I'm really
endless
thinking, what the
spoilers.
heck did I read that had that in it?
I know I'm trying to rack my brain because
I gotta go back and read all the.
See,
It's
like
gotta
I
be-
feel
project.
like I have things I can say, but I'm like I can't say them. I can't say them right now.
it's gotta be either Elantris or Warbreaker.
Or one of the little tiny side projects.
Imagine
it
if
wasn't
we could have a
Tress.
hive mind like in Peacemaker, where like everybody just knows what everybody else's thoughts are. No? Peacemaker?
Peacemaker?
Peacemaker. You've never
What are you
seen
talking
Peacemaker?
No, I don't know what that is.
We
I
just
was too
broke
busy
Sam,
watching
everybody.
Dance.
We broke Sam.
Broke
All
Sam.
right, let's take a break. Hold on. Give her time to
Peacemaker.
breathe.
Let her
The
reboot.
John
Let her
Cena is
reboot.
Peacemaker. Like,
Oh, I know the
okay.
character.
Yeah, I know
but
the
haven't seen
character, but I've also never seen the show. But I
you
know
guys,
who you're
it's like
talking
one
about.
of the funniest shows I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
oh
I
my
don't
god, I feel so old.
know.
Oh.
I'm gonna go downstairs after this and tell my husband, you guys, I made a Peacemaker joke and nobody.
Shad is like, I've never seen the show either.
Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea.
John Cena is
Peacemaker,
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, the character was introduced in the movie
The Suicide Squad, but
Suicide
it's
Squad.
a television show on HBO.
And then the show came out afterwards,
Phenomenal.
but I wasn't impressed enough with him in Suicide Squad to go and watch the show.
No. I understand that, but I am telling you, it is one of the best television shows I've
Alright.
ever watched in my life.
Well, there we
And
go.
for me to give that tag,
One eternity later.
Okay, you have in your notes, Spencer, what's perfect pitch? Do you not know what
Yeah.
perfect pitch is?
I mean, not in like the Cosmere. Like
Well,
I
do you
can't
know, like,
remember.
In the
real world?
Cosmere, it's the same thing it is in our world.
Yeah,
say
like
okay.
what's that? The
Perfect
artist
pitch
name?
is the ability to hit a note and be 100% on,
Or
likewise hear it and know,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
that's
or to
100% the absolute.
hear any
You
note
never
and
be
say
slightly
that's-
sharp or flat. You can
Yeah.
always nail it every time.
Yeah.
Some
What's his
people
name?
naturally have
Charlie or
perfect
not?
pitch.
I can't remember the dude's name. Do you know what I'm talking about? He's a
Charlie Puth is like.
Charlie Puth. Thank you. He's got
is-
perfect pitch.
I only know this because he was on Howard Stern, and I fucking love Howard Stern. And he talked about his perfect pitch. And there's this like apparently TikTok trend where you make the pitch and it moves a ball like that Angry Birds thing through the hole, and he got it like perfectly.
Huh.
I
Yeah.
sound like nails.
Yeah, all
across
I know is
the
that
top.
he's got perfect pitch. I watched a documentary on it. He's got
Perfect pitch. Charlie Puth.
There you go.
Yeah, I just don't know. I just can't remember which Cosmere book it's from. I know I've heard it before. I just don't know which magic system it's from.
I think it's just regular perfect pitch.
Well, yeah, that's
No,
what
it's-
Jim was trying
it's
to
like
say.
specific.
No,
it's
he's
like
trying to say it was the
specific
same
to
thing.
Cosmere.
The same
There is
thing
a
it is
magic
in this
system
world.
in one of the worlds where the more invested you become, the higher certain abilities become, such as you acquire perfect pitch.
Yeah.
That's where that in world, that's where it comes into play.
So there is this one scene that just had me smiling from ear to ear. I was listening to it last night, and I try very hard not to get like super political on the podcast or anything, but this was just like, it fits so perfectly into just modern day like internet back and forth, and I think it's so perfect. It's when Shallan is walking with Kaladin through the chasms, and he's like, yeah, all the light eyes are just like keeping me down and all this stuff. And she goes on this rant that was just amazing. And she said, I think you're the only one that cares about eye color. I think that it's easier for you to pretend that every light eyes is abusing you she basically asked, do you think, or is it easier for you to pretend that every light eyes is abusing you because of your status? Could there be a simpler explanation? Could it be that people don't like you not because you're dark-eyed, but because you're just a huge pain in the neck? Kaladin walks away and she says, no, you're not wiggling out of this. You don't get to imply that I'm abusing my station, then walk away without a response. Because up to this, he had been telling her, like, you're just another light eyes. Like, you're just like a bad person like the rest of them. And she's like, what example could you possibly have to tell me that I'm abusing my station? What have I ever done to you besides like the funny, like I stole your boots thing when we first met? Like, what what could you possibly point to say that I'm this horrible Light Eyes that mistreats everyone around me? And so it was like this whole thing with them. And so he says, they say a few other things, and he's like, I am what the Light Eyes made me. And she says, so what? You're not culpable at all for the way that you act? You're just going to be an intolerant, odious man full of spite, incapable of being pleasant around others? Your life must be very lonely.
Yeah.
I'm literally in the grocery store during this scene, and I had to pull my cart to the side of the aisle because I was like, let's go, Shalon! Come! Oh my god. Oh, it was so great.
Spencer, because it could have gone a completely different direction, and I am just so glad that it went in the direction it went in.
What she said to him is what a lot of people want to say to others who are playing the victim card.
Yes.
Saying that they hold no culpability for how they act and who they are. It's all because of what others have done and how they've treated me. But we can't say it because we'll get canceled.
Right.
Exactly. That's so yeah, it was good to read it there.
Kick him in the balls.
It was fantastic. I think she was super on point. I grew up with I'll just say family members that were like 24/7, 100% of the time were the victim, and like played this victim card and was like, woe is me, like everybody's keeping me down, and it's like, just hearing this, I'm like, yes, thank you, Shallan. You are the best character in this series. So yeah, Shallan is based for sure. But they do get to walking, and they get to put the animosity that they've had towards each other to bed. And I love this thing that she does, where when they wake up the next morning, she's like, the only thing that we can say is like what like how we're grateful to be here. Like, I'm grateful to be here because, and so they were going back and forth with all these really funny ones. And I wish I had written some of them down, but they were like very insincere things, like, I'm grateful to be here because I'm not being shot with arrows up at the top, like, you know, stuff like that.
It was good.
I liked this whole thing they had going on, where they were like, okay, we're gonna come around to finding some respect for each other and to like each other and everything. And then Gabe, like Gabe said earlier, is you know, she hands him her shard blade, and she's like, take this and protect yourself with this.
they get to a point where it's like, you know, it's either that or death. So
right.
I mean, it was a very like destitute situation, and where all that changed, but still did.
Yeah. And I did like the reveal where she's got this flash of insight that the chasm is symmetrical.
Yes.
And there used to be a city at the middle of this thing, and there was some big weapon.
Yeah, that was before the Shardblade thing.
Yeah, that sent out vibrations and broke up all the chasms.
She was mapping them, and then she like was looking at her drawing and said, "No, this is a mirror. This is a mirror of the last place we were." And that's when she was like, "Hold on, wait a minute, something ain't right. I need to go check this out."
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm really interested to find out more about how that city like got destroyed and all this stuff. And do I understand, you know, we can kind of wrap up as we're going into the end here. Do I understand that the Oath Gate that they found at the end was the thing that led them into that city, or did it take them somewhere else?
Into Urethro.
Like the Parshendi, where all the Parshendi were, like the city that they were inhabiting?
No. Their own like inhabited spot on the Shattered Plains, where Shallan took everyone with her Shardblade and that power of the base.
Totally different place.
Urethro.
Oh, okay. And I honestly, I kind of rushed the end this morning. I was like reading through it all very fast. So when they went through there, what was that?
Urethro, where they end up, is what Yasna was looking for.
Yeah, that's like her whole...
Okay.
It's the lost city of the Radiance.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's mentioned in the legends, but there's lots of maps that had shown where it was, but they never show it in the same place. It was impossible to peg it down, but the Oath Gate took them there.
And
Okay.
before
Magic.
Yasna went missing, off the boat, the last thing they had talked about was, oh, we need to find this place. And then Shallan finds a way to find the place.
So this is part of what Hoyd's talking about. When Yasna comes back, it's like, no. They're well along the plan.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. Take it to a pill. It's all good.
So in the next book, I would assume, because I don't think, I mean, unless I just like rushed through it and like was not paying attention in the slightest, they didn't really explore this place, right?
They started to.
Yeah, they kind of did.
And Adeline finds Sadius.
Yeah, there's a big moment during the explorations that are going on there. If you missed that because you were going too fast, you missed a big part.
A big part.
Oh, I did. I mean, I saw Adeline kill Sadius.
Okay, yeah, well, he just casually says that. That's a big part.
Yeah, that was amazing. I love that.
And that's during like the exploration. And they say the place is so huge that what it would take with the stormlight they would need would take years.
Yeah, well, they even said barely to like light all the torches in the gate was like more than anybody could do that was there.
Yeah.
Like it was super crazy amounts of stormlight.
Yeah.
Kaladin says he wants to go to his parents, and Dalinar is clearly like, ugh, how am I going to get enough stormlight to get you there?
Right. Okay. So I assume we're going to see more of this city in the next
You are
book.
assuming correctly.
Okay, cool. So we started to talk about Kaladin fighting Seth, and we ended up talking about his like whole truthless thing. So this big fight at the end was so cool because I kind of picture it like Dragon Ball, where they're just like flying around the sky, fighting each other, but with swords.
Yeah.
Okay. It was so cool, and I love the moment where Seth just throws Dalinar into the sky, like, you're dead, like you're just flying into the sky, and as soon as I cancel my stormlight, you're just gonna drop to the ground and die. And Kaladin, of course, comes through and like reverses the binding and sends him floating back to the ground, like very like carefully. And then
sweet.
Kaladin just like lands with his spear.
Superman landing.
Oh man, it was so good. It was the most, like, one of the most hype moments of the book, where it's like they're like, what is that? And they just see like Dalinar kind of floating back down, and then just Kaladin just like a rocket. It was so good. And then of course they fight all over the place, and we talked about Seth getting stabbed and everything, and his whole like truthless thing.
Yep.
But then Seth drops his sword, which Syl explains this is an honor blade, right?
Yes.
Like this.
Yes.
This is like, she's like, you could use this and have the same abilities that you have, but not need me, basically.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. But it takes a lot more from you. She does say that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't catch that.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, she was. They were talking about Zetha's blade, and she says, "Yes, this blade gives him the power to be a surge binder without me."
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also takes a lot more from him. It takes a lot more stormlight from him.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
What he does with stormlight, he burns through it a lot.
Burns through like super fast. Yeah.
Okay.
He's inefficient with stormlight. With that blade.
You're completely right. I was not understanding what.
You're good. I'm glad we got it cleared up.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking the whole time that Kaladin was without his powers, I'm like, well, that's kind of crappy. So he has to be like honest and honorable all the time, or else he's gonna lose Syl.
He has to be true to his oath.
Well, yeah, he has to be true to his oath. Exactly. That's why she's there. Is the oath.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well.
Okay.
I mean, towards the end, anyways, right? Like that's what he does. That's what he says to get his blade from her. Is the oath.
So
it's an
on
easy relationship. If you're good, I'm
Sure.
with you. If you sought them out.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I would assume on reread, would I be able to go back through and see like, oh, Scylla's showing up like in the first book, like she's showing up in the times when he's honoring an oath? Is that when she's around
It's not
usually?
quite that black and white, but
Okay.
you will be able to see things that you didn't catch the first time. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Um let's see. Kaladin is a light eye now after his whole like magic explosion.
Yeah, I got bright blue eyes now.
Yep. And then Lopin can use Stormlight. We see this in a thing where they ask like, "Where's the king?" And then it flashes over to Lopin and it's at his house or whatever.
Yep.
And he's like pulling the coins out of this basin and like trying to pull Stormlight from them. And then all of a sudden he can do it. And it's like, what does that mean? This random guy, Lopin.
Yeah, I can't even remember who that is, dude.
He's been
I
like a
believe you
very
mean
minor
the
character.
Lopin.
What's that?
Lopin?
The Lopin.
The Lopin?
The Lopin.
The Lopin.
The Lopin. Okay.
Anyways,
I'm
that is
just like-
a total teaser for come back and read the next book. That's what
Okay.
that scene
Alright.
is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Because I was just like, I know who this guy is, but he's just like some random side character. Like, why does he get to use Stormlight?
Wow. Calling him some random side character. Wow, you have so much to learn, my friend. So much.
Oh. We learned that Shallan's family was taken by the Ghost Bloods. Her land was swallowed by a passing army. And
Yep.
I even have a note at the beginning here where I'm like, yay, Yasna's helping Shallan's family. She's going to fix everything. And then she disappears and goes gallivanting around Shadesmar, and then the Ghost Bloods come in and take everything. And I was like, dang it, dude. Like, God. So, yeah.
At
I'll
least
be
her
interested.
siblings are alive, right?
Yeah.
Brothers are alive and well. We don't know. At least I don't think we know. The guy from the Ghostbusters just said, "Yeah, no, they're safe, and I
Yeah.
can bring them here."
Did you
if
just
you're
say
willing
the
to
guy
leave."
from the Ghostbusters? That's what it sounded like you said.
The
Ghost
Ghost
Bloods.
Bloods.
Ghost Bloods? But I guess that works too. They could be the Ghostbusters.
Who you want to call?
Yeah, who you wanna call?
Bloods.
Because I'm just like, I don't know. The Ghost Blood storyline so far is not like super interesting to me.
I feel like it's gonna
hope
be
it
really
gets
important
more.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it.
gonna be
I
something
hope it
important.
gets more interesting.
Once
but I'm
again, the
just
term
like,
Raffo comes to mind.
Sure.
Yeah, read and find out, baby. Come on.
I was just like, okay, all right. They took the brothers, all right. Yeah, we talked about Seth coming back, and then we talked about Hoyd talking to Yasna. Any other moments for you guys that you can think of as we kind of wrap up here?
I think we nailed the big ones. I think
Yeah.
we've done a really nice job here.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, two
Spencer's got one.
very quick
Ooh.
questions. So Adolin, I assume he kills Eshonai because I don't think we see the end of that fight, right?
We see him leverage Eshonai into falling into a chasm. That's what we
Okay.
see.
Okay. And then with Moash, I was like, how the hell did Kaladin not kill Moash? Like, did he just like run away from him, or what happened there? He just
Moash ran away. That's exactly what happened.
Moash ran away. Okay. Yeah, because I was like, Kaladin should have just killed him because he's going to be such a big problem later on, I'm sure. Like, I'm not looking forward to him facing off with Kaladin. Although Kaladin's like super powered now, so he could easily wipe the floor with him. But that's all I got for this book. So if we do final thoughts, yeah, any final things before we wrap up here? I know Gabe wants to reread this one. I'm excited to just go on to 3. Like this book has made me like super super excited to see what's next, and I think I'm starting to like understand why this is such a massive series for so many people. I'm like, I get it now. Whereas before, it's not like I hated the series or anything, but I was just like, okay, like I just didn't know like what I was missing like at all. And I'm like I'm super into this. I'm super into this. So
I agree, Spence. I absolutely agree.
You're gonna love Oathbringer.
Yeah.
Totally. With what you've all said about Words of Radiance, you two are gonna totally dig Oathbringer.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm excited.
But it's a fun series where first time, second time, third time, eighth time, you are going to find new things as you're reading it. It's just one of those, what do you call them, Russian nesting dolls, where every time you do it, you find something new. And
yeah,
I think that's very unique because that's what a lot of authors want to do. And I don't think many authors are capable of doing.
Yeah.
There is a recommendation I'd make before you read Oathbringer, and that's to read the short little novella Edge Dancer.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely the next stop. We didn't even talk about Lift. And I've heard so many people talk about Lift and how much they hate that character, and we only see her like a little bit in this book.
What evil people say this? I've never heard that.
I'm shocked.
I don't know. I've heard so many people be like, "Oh my god, Lift is like the worst character."
You're talking to shady people, man. No, Lift is incredible. Love Lift.
My favorite.
I've
so
heard
much
I don't know if this is true, but I've heard people say like Lift just like takes over the whole series and it just becomes a series about Lift. No? Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Good.
Oh
I'm glad that's not true then. Cuz Lift, I'll be honest, like Lift kind of annoyed me in this book. We only get her for like a chapter, but I was like, "Oh, this is kind of a insufferable character."
No.
She's another character where it's like, imagine you are her and you have lived her life to get up to that point. You would be the exact same way.
With Lift, just get used to awesomeness.
Oh god.
Literally.
Yeah, I hated that.
Lift
She's like my awesomeness. I was like, shut up, Lift.
And yet I gotta tell you, just a little foreshadowing, Lift is amazingly critically important.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what else the series has in store. I mean, it's surprised me like literally at every turn. I'm excited to know more about Shallan's Shardblade. Because we get some answers, like we know that she has one, we know that she's had one since she was young, but like we didn't even talk about her like killing her mom.
Yeah, I was just gonna. That just popped in my mind as well.
Or her dad, who made it look like he killed her mom.
Well, yeah, her dad protected her, and we didn't know that.
Her dad.
The first flashback we see of that whole scene is her killing her dad with poison and then choking him to death. But then we see later on that. No, she's the one that killed her mom. And I guess, I'm hoping that more of that gets explained later on. Does it? It should. I feel like it should.
I assume so.
It would make sense.
Yeah, it would make sense, right?
I have a lot of questions about how she's had a shard blade since she was like, when did her mom die? Was she like 5 or 6 or something?
Yeah, she's 5, and she's only how old is she now? I thought isn't she like 14 or something?
What's that?
Now?
She's like 15.
15 or 14 or 15, yeah.
Yeah.
So like not that long ago when she was just a child. It's weird.
No, but she was even younger when her mom died, right?
No,
Like
I was just saying, how old is she now? Like, as we read her in the latest parts. Oh, okay. I thought she was like 14 or 15. But yeah, she was young. She was like 7.
Yeah, I don't think she was 17 already.
Yeah, I thought she was 14. That's what I remember hearing in the book.
Well, like when we first meet her
she is.
in The Way of Kings, she's like 14 or 15, and we're aging a little because time is going by.
Well, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So Shad says a lot of people hate Lift. And then he says, I'm looking forward to your reaction on Dalinar's backstory, which is another thing I'm interested to hear because I know just from what I've heard, around, people are like, Dalinar has like a really dark backstory, so I'm excited to learn more about him.
These
That'll
things
be
are
a
coming.
very good book for you. Very good.
What,
Yeah.
book 3?
Oathbringer. Yeah. It'll
Okay.
be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, we'll have to figure out, what the next month or so looks like. If Gabe's doing a reread, we might put book 3 off for a bit and let him reread Words of Radiance. And
We're gonna do the Fourth Wing follow up. That's what we're gonna do.
yeah, we'll do a Fourth Wing follow up.
That's like a day listen, like literally a day listen on a book.
Yeah, I've been used to, dude.
Yeah.
I've been used to
So-
like 6-hour books lately. That's like my forte.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to focus on a
And Gabe,
6-hour
I
book.
know you loved Fourth Wing. Gabe, you loved Fourth
I did.
Wing.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. Yeah. I like the dragons.
So-
Dragons.
But no, and I told you, you get so much more of the dragons in book
Yeah,
2.
the dragons I thought were really
So much.
freaking cool.
So cool.
Yeah. So
Jim,
yeah, we'll
the
do.
sun is okay.
We'll do some shorter books, which will allow Gabe to get another reread in of Words of Radiance, and then we'll probably do some Harry Potter or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But Jim, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Hey,
and
my pleasure.
talking Stormlight. This has
I
been
can
such
talk
a fun.
Stormlight all day. My wife
dude.
is probably going, dude, stop talking. Come on.
Come
finish
to
this."
I
bed.
know. She's like, come have dinner.
Come to
That's
bed.
my son.
Yeah.
Time to
My
go to
husband
bed.
downstairs. He's like, Sam, are you done yet? Like, come on.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a fun journey so far. It's been cool to have you here to bounce thoughts off of. And
Happy to talk. You bet. Good
Cool.
stuff.
Love
It's always good to hang with you guys.
awesome. Well, all right, guys, we are going to wrap it up there. Hopefully, you didn't have to hit yourself in the head with a rock 5 times to judge our company. But we hope you had fun. Don't forget to check out Jim's channel. It's linked in the description, as well as all of our links and whatnot. Upcoming episodes are going to be a little bit up in the air because I don't know where this episode is going to premiere in the midst of what we have recorded and are going to record right now. So you can always assume that there will be another Stormlight episode within the next month or so. And there will also be another Harry Potter episode within the next month or so. We're also working on getting back into the Dresden Files, so hopefully Skin Game will be coming up very soon, and that'll be super fun to get back into that world. And pretty soon after that, we'll be finishing the Dresden Files series. I mean, like, after Skin Game, it's Peace Talks and Battlegrounds.
Yep.
And that's kind of like the end of the road for the past like 3
That's
years.
a big push.
That,
Yeah. It's a
that
big
we've been
push.
recording these things. So that'll be super fun. I'm looking forward to getting to the end of what we have for the Dresden Files, and maybe by then, like Jim was saying before the podcast, maybe we'll have a new Dresden Files book very soon. So let's
Or
all
I'll just like push you to like smuttier and smuttier.
yeah.
Oh man.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
It
maybe
is-
we'll have a Court of Thorns and Roses coming up. I don't know. We
Oh my
we
God.
will have
Spence,
will
I
have
would
that.
love that though. I would absolutely love that. I would actually like absolutely love that.
I tried it. It's one of my
I think
rare
there's a lot
DNFs.
one of your rare DNFs. You don't DNF books very often.
Right.
I have read every single one of her books ever, all of them, multiple times. I am ready with the lore, Spence.
Oh
I
my gosh.
have it down.
Okay. Well, we'll have to get very drunk for that live stream. As we will for Iron Flame. I think that'll be a fun one as well. But with that, guys, of course, like I said, links are in the description. You can reach out to us there, comment here on YouTube. That helps us out a lot. You can also support us on Patreon, where you get to watch these episodes live as we record them, just like Shad Zaman is here, and talk with us in the chat and get your voice heard in the episode. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching and hanging out with us as we go into the Cosmere. And until next time, you're not in the middle of battle. You don't need to shit in your shard plate. You can just go to the bathroom. So maybe you should do that.